Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to The Two Mikes. Porky is obsessed today with trousers. That'll fit in quite nicely with my agenda because I'm in the market for some shirts after they got nicked. We'll be talking to a psychologist about the importance of saying no more often than yes, and we'll be discussing the benefits of sending a few people to Mars. I could nominate one or two at the moment. Also coming up on the show, it's time for the best TV review this side of the Milky Way. We're talking, of course, about Porky Vision, where you get to hear all about your favourite television programmes from someone who hasn't watched them. You're listening to The Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry. We are The Two Mikes. It's time to say a very good afternoon to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good afternoon to Shirtless Joe.
Shirtless Joe,
okay.
Yeah, very funny.
Can I call you that?
Very funny.
Who was Shoeless Joe?
Shoeless Joe was a baseball player, was he not?
He was the guy, wasn't he, who fixed the game?
Yeah, the Chicago Black Sox.
Don't you remember? Wasn't it the famous quote, "Hey, Joe, tell us it ain't so"?
Yeah,
that
say it ain't so, Joe.
Say it ain't so. Say it ain't.
You've got to get it right. Say it ain't so, Joe.
It ain't so, Joe. That's
yes.
Right. In the famous
big
scandal. But anyway, let's never mind about baseball and Shoeless Joe.
Yeah.
Shirtless Joe is yourself. How could you possibly lose 7 shirts in the dry cleaners? I've been going to dry cleaners all my life, as everybody else has.
Doesn't look like it.
I have never.
Those trousers dry cleaned.
We'll go on to trousers in a minute, please.
Okay.
I have never ever lost an item of clothing because what happens is
neither have I,
when you
enough.
go in there, they give you a ticket,
That's
okay?
right.
And then you go away, you put it in your wallet, and you come back, say, "Here's my ticket," and you get your clothing back.
Yeah.
So what happened when you handed your ticket in?
Well, what happened when I handed my ticket in was the woman who is a very nice elderly woman who runs the place, and there's about 3 sort of women of a certain age who run this place, right? But they don't obviously own it. And she was sort of looking a bit perplexed, and then after about a couple of minutes, she looked up at me and said, in a very nice sort of East End accent, "Have you got a brother?" Yeah. And I said, "No, I haven't actually. I just thought she was making conversation." So I said, "No, I've got a sister, but I haven't got a brother."
Yes.
And she went, "Oh."
And it wasn't my sister because she lives in Connecticut.
She lives in Connecticut, yeah. But I wasn't aware at this point that there was any reason to ask the question. And she said, well, somebody came in and picked these up already. And I went, I beg your pardon? Somebody came in and picked these shirts up. And, they are probably my best 7 shirts. All bought within the last year, probably.
Yeah. Well, even saying they're your best 7 doesn't really rate them highly, does it?
Well, it does, actually. My shirts, as everybody who ever comes to one of our live shows says, or anybody who sees pictures of us will tell you, that my shirts are always in much better nick than yours. They tend to be fairly sort of expensive shirts, always cotton, usually with a little logo on them somewhere.
They're spread over much more sort of space, like,
not really.
flesh-wise.
Well, they're 16.5 is the size of my shirts. So what size are yours? I'm quite happy to admit my size. 16.5.
Yes.
What size are your shirts?
I don't go in for inches, halves, and all that kind of stuff. No.
Well, you just go to the tent shop.
No, you fool. I go in for small, medium, large, and all that kind of stuff.
Extra large.
No.
So what size is that then?
I've told you. My shirts are one standard size.
Why can't you just tell people?
I've told you. Anyway, let's get back to your shirts.
Okay, let's get back to
So
my
what
shirts.
hope have you got of recovering these shirts?
So in the background, there's a guy who obviously owns the place, who's sort of milling around because he's taking stuff out, putting it in a van and driving it wherever it is they drive it.
Your shirts went amongst
and
that
I
stuff.
said, well, I don't understand what you're talking about. I really can't believe you've given my shirts to somebody else. And she said, well, this guy came in, he said he was picking up shirts for his brother, and he didn't give, my name particularly, but he said...
hang on, did he have a ticket?
He didn't have a ticket. No, I have the ticket. Well, I've got the ticket.
Well, I mean,
and
I'm
sure, like many people, have been to the dry cleaners without a ticket because sometimes you lose the ticket.
I never do.
You've never gone without a ticket.
Never.
Okay, well, lots of people do. I mean, I've been there without a ticket, right? But they know me.
Yeah.
This guy apparently says, I've got to pick these shirts up for my brother. He points to the shirts that he sees hanging up.
Looks like them.
A myriad of shirts. And he goes to look at them. He says, oh, yeah, this is them. And he takes them, signs his name, and then leaves a phone number because they ask him to do that, which is fair enough. So I said, okay, well, let's have the phone number. So I call the phone number, and all I get is, this number is unavailable. That's it. I didn't get a ringing. I didn't get anything. So I don't even know if it's a real number.
Shirts have been nicked,
don't know if it's a real guy. But he paid for them, though, right? I mean, it wasn't much because I was just getting them pressed.
Yeah, but hang on. You said you just told us
£10.50.
You've just told us the shirt's worth £400.
They are. They're expensive shirts.
That would have been the retail value of them when you purchased them.
Yeah, but I mean, you could sell them.
But
you could sell them down the market for probably a tenner each or something.
I was going to say they're probably
if you wanted to buy some crack.
So he's paid £10 for these shirts, and you reckon his mate on the down at Albert Square, for instance, might sell them for a tenner each.
It's not out of
how many shirts? 7. That's 70.
Yeah,
so £60 profit between him and his mate. That's £30 each.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an impossibility.
Small-time operators, these guys.
It's not an impossibility, is it? Now, the only other possibility is that he's come to pick up his brother's shirts genuinely, and he's taken the wrong shirts. Yes. But apparently he took them on Monday. So surely this is now Wednesday.
Exactly.
Somebody would have looked at them and gone, these are not mine.
We'd have found out by
and brought
now.
them back. So the way I've left it with them, right, is that the manager of the place, or the owner, says that they've got CCTV cameras and they will basically look through them.
Did you?
And they will identify this guy because one of the things that was said was that the woman said, well, the other woman who was here on that day says that she thinks she knows him.
Regular customer.
Well, but then I said, well, would you mind ringing her
Yes.
to get her to come down here and to talk me through what happened? And she said, well, she'll be here later. And I'm like,
Well,
I've
I
got
won't
lots of stuff to do. I've got to go to work.
Yeah.
And so she went, well, so she rang her, and then she apparently said, I don't think I know him.
She doesn't think he knows him.
So, I mean, they're promising to bring me the shirts back.
I don't think you're going to see these shirts
I don't think
again.
I'm going to see them again, and I'm going to have to then get them to recompense me, presumably, through their insurance company, to say, look, you owe me 7 new shirts.
How much compensation are you going to ask for?
Well, I'm going to ask for the replacement value, which is 7 new shirts.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, sorry, if your car gets written off on an insurance claim, they give you the value of the car at the time it's written off.
Well, they can't tell me how valuable these shirts are. As far as they know, they're all new. I mean, many of them are very new
you
shirts.
just admitted on air. They're not new.
No, I've said that they're probably at least no more than a year old, any of them.
But you've also said they're only worth $10 each.
Well, no, I haven't said that. I said if you take them to a market and sell them as if they're knocked off the back of a lorry, I suppose you could probably get a tenner for them. I don't know.
I bet you an insurance company will pick up on that.
Some of these shirts I paid 80 quid for.
Well, you won't get more than 70 quid for the lot now, mate, because you've just said they're worth 70 quid.
No, that's not true. You know nothing about insurance. You know nothing about dry cleaners. You know nothing about shirt stealing.
Listen, you're getting irritated now and aggravated because you made a complete,
Well, how's it my fault? What have I done?
You've made a complete bolloxio.
What have I done?
You've made a complete bolloxio.
What have I done wrong? Tell me what I've done wrong.
Of the simplest mission in life, and
that
is to go and pick up your dry cleaning.
How have I done something wrong?
Well, what you've done is, you see...
because you're so poisoned and twisted that whenever something bad happens to me, you absolutely revel in it and love it, right? So you're trying to make out that it's my fault. How's it my fault? I put the bloody shirts in last week. I went to pick them up this week.
A bit of language creeping in here now.
Went to pick them up this week, and now they're not there.
Well, they're gone. They're gone. But I mean, you have to, I always...
I wouldn't be surprised if you did it.
No, I didn't do it. No,
Are you sure?
I'm always one step ahead of the game. And for instance, right, if I'd have put my shirts in like that, when I got my ticket, and they gave you a ticket, okay, I would have said, on what day do you want me to pick them up? What day did they tell you?
Well, I put my shirts in on a weekly basis, okay?
Yes.
And normally what they say, like, for example, I put another 7 shirts in today.
Yes.
Which is why 14 of my shirts are now
you put another 7 shirts into the place that's already lost last week's 7 shirts?
I've been using them for 5 years.
Oh, dear me.
I've been using
you're
them...
a glutton for punishment, aren't you?
I've been using them for 5 years. You turn into Bernard Manning or something.
Excuse me,
you're a glutton for punishment, aren't you?
Yeah.
With some northern comedian's voice.
The issue here is...
God's sake.
The issue here is this. When people say, right, here's your shirt, and they're ready, they were clearly ready on Monday for you to pick them up.
Yeah. I wasn't here on Monday.
Oh, sorry, what do you mean you weren't here?
I wasn't here. I was in Sussex on Monday.
No, you weren't. You were in here.
I was in here in the
studio with me.
I was in here in the afternoon.
From 1 o'clock.
Yeah, in the afternoon. So I wasn't able to pick them up before I did that.
And
by the time I got home, they were closed.
You were in London from 10 o'clock. Now, the point
No, I was not in London from 10 o'clock at all.
Well, you should have been.
I was in London from about midday.
Now, the issue here is this. If they say your shirts will be ready on Monday, then everybody knows you go and pick them up on Monday.
No, you don't. That's
because
rubbish.
If you don't,
that's rubbish.
Every day after the day they're available, they are susceptible to be getting lost.
No, that's rubbish.
Everybody knows that.
No, everybody does not know
Anybody who's ever used a dry cleaners knows that if you left it 3 weeks, you'd probably never get the stuff back. Not because it's the dry cleaner's fault. It's your fault for not going and reclaiming your goods. Everybody knows that.
Thanks very much indeed for your help. Well, we're going to be talking to a trousers expert coming up soon. Something else that Porky knows nothing about. I've got a tweet here from John. Who says there's a lot that Porky knows nothing about.
What?
Funnily enough. And this is just another subject. Porky thinks all shirts are worth a tenner due to him only buying them from Sports Direct specials.
That's
says
very
Stephen.
nice, isn't it?
You'll get no sympathy from anybody trying to make out that I've made a massive error here, because I haven't. I've just been a bit unlucky. Hopefully, hopefully they will.
You get a bit unlucky sometimes after a weekend of bladderation.
It's got nothing to do with
that. Let's put that into the mix.
What's that got to do with anything?
Well, you admitted to me that by Monday morning you still felt a bit fuzzy from your weekend excesses.
That's got nothing to do with the dry cleaners.
I'm suggesting
nothing to do with
that's
the dry
why
cleaners.
You didn't get down the dry cleaners on Monday, because actually you didn't have the energy or the initiative to do it.
Well, shall I now tell everybody how you admitted that actually you often go to the dry cleaners without a ticket, and you're now denying that live on the air, even though you told me that before we started?
Well, you've just made that up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Everybody knows who makes stuff up on this show.
Oh, excuse me.
And I think it's you.
I'm not engaging in a conversation
if you're
like
out
this.
there with my 7 shirts, bring them back to the dry cleaners and all will be forgotten. If, on the other hand, you have decided to keep them and try to sell them somewhere, they will be held to pay.
I've just come down from the Isle of Skye. I'm no very big and I'm awful shy. And the lassies shout when I go by, Donald, where's your trousers? Let the wind blow high, let the wind blow low. Through the streets in my kit I'll go. All the lassies say, hello, Donald, where's your trousers?
That's a great song, that, isn't it?
It's
You've
a
got to
great
say,
song. I love
no matter
it.
how many times you hear it, it is a great song. And funnily enough, I apologise if I'm seeming slightly ratty about the shirts thing, but I mean, these are 7 of my favourite shirts.
Well,
you don't know what that means to somebody like me. You don't care about your shirts because they're all horrible.
No, they're not.
They're all horrible.
No. Listen, when I wear a suit, I've got fantastic shirts, and they're so fantastic that I have, and this is no joke, I have 2 solid silver collar inserts, which I put into
solid silver?
Yeah, solid
No,
silver.
You don't.
I do, honest to God,
I do. Got silver ones?
Because I wanted silver ones. I bought them. They're solid silver.
Are they engraved with your initials as well?
No, but they're quality. And then when they then go to be washed by my housekeeper and all that, you take the solid silver ones out, put them into the next shirt. Anyway, let's talk more trousers, shall we?
Let's talk to Anthony Rowland. He's a sales manager at Henry Poole & Co., which is of Savile Row, London, of course. Very, very famous place.
Indeed.
He's an expert on trousers and probably shirts as well. Anthony, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
I'm terribly sorry to sound slightly agitated, but 7 of my shirts have been stolen from the dry cleaners, and I don't know what to do about it.
Bad news.
I might have to pop round to your place and pick up 7 on the way home.
Pick up a few more. Now, Anthony, can I put this to you? Sales manager at Henry Poole, thank you very much indeed for coming on and joining us. I was intrigued to see Rod Stewart, Sir Roderick Stewart, as he now is, one of the most famous men in the world, going to Buckingham Palace yesterday in front of the Queen and Prince Charles, and he's wearing a pair of tartan trews. Is that what a gentleman should do?
Well, one could say that in this day and age, most gentlemen are entitled to wear whatever they like.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, when you go to Buckingham Palace for an investiture, it's normally a morning suit, I suppose, or a dark suit of some kind.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in fairness to him, he's certainly one of the gentlemen that for years has always sort of worn his own sort of type of clothing, so why not, I suppose?
I suppose.
And also, in the world of, like in Scotland, for example, if you go to a black tie do, quite often you'll see men wearing that kind of garb rather than just a normal black tie, or indeed, the sort of dress kilt outfit.
Very much so. I mean, looking at the photograph that I've seen of him recently today, they don't actually look like proper tartan trews.
No, they don't, do they?
They would be really more tartan trousers.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
And the only reason I say that is that if you look at one particular picture where he's standing in front of, looks like Prince William, he's actually got what looks like a seam down the side.
Yeah, I see.
Which is what a normal pair of trousers would probably normally look like. Whereas if you had actual proper tartan trews, it would be no seam on the outside. There is only one seam, and that goes down the inside of the leg.
That's excellent, and I'm glad we've got an expert like you on the show, because you just mentioned Prince William there, and this is my next question. According to a report that I read, and remember, we keep up with what's going on inside the royal family.
Well, you might do.
Sorry?
Well, you might do.
I do. Prince William's esteemed wife, who is the Duchess of Cambridge, right? Yeah. That's right, yeah. Yep. She has said recently that I've got to refashion Willie and get him to start wearing skinnies. Now, what are skinnies?
Well, I'm assuming she's referring to probably jeans.
No, more narrow trousers, I think she means. You're
talking to a trouser expert here. Sure. He's told you what they are. Why are you arguing?
Over the years, trousers have gone in and out in terms of width from the thigh down.
Porkies have only gone out, I'm afraid.
That's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
Really, I mean, for us generally here in Savile Row, and certainly here at Henry Poole, we tend to try and make things that are actually just sort of totally in keeping with the customer. So we're taking their actual body measurements and stance and everything into account.
Yeah.
So really, we're actually making something that isn't necessarily in fashion, but it's never going to be out of fashion.
Yes. No. Presumably, you at Henry Poole don't change the look of the stuff you make and you tailor very much over the years.
Well, in fairness, it does change slightly. I mean, I suppose, in fairness, fashion does sort of filter through. Ultimately, I mean, the current trend, as you say, is to have a sort of narrower trouser.
Yeah.
It's usually a slightly lower sit on the waist than it has been over the years, and jackets are a lot shorter.
What about the phenomenon?
So your baggy suits are basically very out of fashion.
They're
straight out of the 80s. Double-breasted, big lapels, baggy.
I don't have baggy suits, Anthony. What I was going to say to you is, and this is getting a bit sensitive now around the gentleman's sort of genitalia area, but it's it seems to me younger men wearing these skinnies are squashing their sort of vital appendage type parts into two little trouser.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that around here at Talk Sport. Actually, a lot of very young men wearing very, very tight sort of drain pipes.
I mean, isn't that dangerous apart from anything else, Anthony?
Well, it can be. I mean, if you constrict it too much, then it'll probably start to go blue, I would think.
It certainly would.
Yes, that wouldn't do at all, would it?
Now, Anthony, in your revered position as an expert, I'm going to shock you now and tell you that the latest trouser row that's come into Talk Sport Towers, Talk Radio Towers as well, from the north of England, is that a chap's been banned from going to the parish council meeting because he was wearing combat trousers. Now, I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, it must have been a fairly serious fight he was obviously looking for.
That's completely right. It's absolutely
well, isn't
right.
he some kind of a gamekeeper or something? So he wears these, he says, because that's what he wears to work. But they've told him he can't attend the meetings unless he wears proper clothes.
Are there any sort of patterns of trouser, Anthony, which you simply would not provide for your esteemed clients, even if they were, gentlemen of the country set?
I think, in fairness, combat trousers, we might be pushing it just purely because it's not something we can sort of readily lay our hands on as a cloth. But generally speaking, we make a lot of tartan trousers for people. So, for instance, for events like the one for Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, certainly, tweed outfits for gamekeeping and things like that. So, yes, I mean, it really depends on what the customer's looking for. Corduroys, moleskins, which is really just a brushed cotton.
And are you now? Yes, we hear about Savile Row and tailors still having plenty of business. It's very much at the high end of the market. But is it a dying trade, tailoring, or not really?
It wouldn't appear so. I mean, I have to say we're very fortunate here that we've got quite a few young apprentices coming through, and we've had a lot of young apprentices come through. We have a gentleman, Mr. Philip Parker, who's our vice chairman here, who's been working very hard with the Savile Row Bespoke Association to actually encourage more young people coming into the trade.
Yeah.
And in fairness, we get so many people coming through that unfortunately we have to turn so many away because we don't have enough space ourselves or enough work for to make sure that they're going to be learning things.
Sure. How are business rates affecting you, Anthony? I think they're punitive, and also I think that the ability for people to get round London these days who are doing business has been severely restricted by ridiculous curbaceons on traffic.
Oh, well, it certainly doesn't help. I mean, London has become so congested over the years that it's very hard to get around quickly and freely. In terms of business rates, then, yes, I mean, they are becoming more and more expensive, as are rents here in central London, not just for Savile Row, but for most businesses.
Sure.
I mean, we're very fortunate in the sense that we're still a family-run business,
right?
With a 6th and 7th generation family member here, but it still makes it very hard for us. We're not a big business. We don't have a big financial backer behind us.
Sure.
We live and die on what we actually bring in.
But that is a terrific statistic that you're a 7th generation family. Just one last thing I want to tell you, Anthony, just to make you.
Do you mind if I ask him a question?
Please do. I was going to give him a statement.
It's called the two mics this show, but sometimes I do wonder, Anthony, whether it's just the one mic.
I was going to tell about Tony Frost.
Tony Frost, our colleague in America, who used to glide his way into... You can tell him in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Tell him in a minute. I was going to ask you, because this would be a more sensible question to ask you, instead of rambling on about some guy that you've never heard of. How much does a sort of bespoke suit set you back these days, I was to come in and get one? Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you have a guess?
£2,500.
What would you say, Anthony?
Keep going.
Oh, £3,500.
Keep going.
£6,000.
That's a bit too high.
£5,000.
Generally speaking, we start at just over 4,300.
Right.
Well, for a suit.
Well, this guy lives in the
including VAT.
This guy, including VAT. That's good. He lives in the 80s, you see, so he prices everything to what it used to be in the 80s.
Okay, bear in mind that a lot of the people that we have here have taken years of apprenticeships to learn their craftsmanship. We've got a lot of young ladies here who are also learning the craft.
Really?
So we've got a lot of young tailoresses here as well now,
that's fabulous.
which is great. But they all have to go through a particular process of learning. So whether it be cutting or coat making or trouser making or vest making, as we call it.
Brilliant. Time is short. I've got to tell you one last thing, Anthony. Tony Frost was a tabloid editor in America.
Right.
But he was English. And the way he always glided into the balls for the rich and the famous and all that was to walk up to the doorman and say, "Chaps, have you met anybody around here tonight with a Savile Row suit? They're not making them like they used to, you know. Chip, chip." And he would go. No problem at all. Most famous in the world. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's the story you want to tell about Tony Frost?
Yeah, that's right.
Not the one when he was done for sexual harassment for opening the door to a young reporter dressed in nothing but a robe. And
loads of pornographic magazines laid out on the floor.
Still, never mind, that's a far more interesting story.
Yeah, but he wears Savile Row suits.
Yeah, he does. Except for when he's in a hotel room. Anthony, thank you very much indeed. And we may pop by. We'll see if we can save up enough money to come and buy a pair of trousers from you.
My pleasure. You're very welcome.
Indeed. Thank you very much indeed. Anthony Rowland from Henry Poole and Company. We are the two mics. Porky Vision coming up a little bit later on. The best TV review this side of the Milky Way. We might be talking a bit about Mars as well coming up, mightn't we?
Porky Vision I'm a little bit worried about.
Are you?
I haven't had a lot of time to watch television this
Why
week.
not?
Well, because
we've
been busy.
No, but you've been working 1 to 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah, but
what have you been doing in the evenings?
In the evenings?
Yeah.
In the evenings, sort of recuperating, recovering and planning for tomorrow's show, yeah.
Well, why don't you put the TV on in the background?
Well, it's been difficult. But anyway, I've come up with some stuff, of course, yeah. But,
okay, very good. I've got to read a few tweets out, I think, here. Simon says this: after one wash, Porky's shirts are ruined. He's very jealous. #plank.
Oh, yeah.
Percentage says, is the thief description of the thief a bearded weirdo-looking guy? We won't have to look too far. A couple of people are starting to put two and two together here. Yeah. Jane says, I detect a hint of guilt in old Porky's voice. Are you sure he isn't the bogus brother?
Not at all. Listen, what do you think about that price of a Savile Row suit?
I was quite surprised. I didn't think it was as expensive as that.
I didn't either.
$4,500 or thereabouts.
He said that includes VAT. VAT is 20%, so that's £900.
That's nearly 1,000, isn't it?
So £3.5 plus VAT. Yeah. Still very expensive.
Because a friend of mine, funnily enough, who used to work at the Mirror with me, she'd come in as a graduate trainee and become a journalist, but then she decided she left and got married, and I think her husband might have been in the fashion business, but they started a tailoring business.
Okay.
And I was going to actually get a suit from her because they were selling. They were doing bespoke sort of suit making for $2,500, something like that.
Would they hire a room in a hotel and invite people to come round and measure up and all that kind of stuff?
That's what the guys from Hong Kong do. They were offering to bring you a service like to your office. So they would come to your office and do it.
Yeah, that's great.
Or come to your home and do it. And I thought, this is great. And then it took me about a year to sort of get around to it. And by the time I got back in touch with her, she said, we're not doing that anymore.
Really?
So it's probably just what I didn't.
I did that in New York. I did that with the travelling Chinese...
they used to take a place in one of the hotels, didn't they?
In one of the big hotels.
Yeah. I mean, I did. When I went to India, I had some stuff made because that's kind of what you do.
Yeah.
It's so cheap.
It is cheap,
I think I had a white linen jacket made for myself.
I also had my famous sheepskin coat made in Brooklyn by a Polish tailor.
Polish tailor?
Yeah, I don't know why he was Polish, but he made me...
He was Polish because he was Polish.
Well, exactly, but I mean, he made my sheepskin coat, but he was very good at it.
Have you still got that?
No.
What happened to it?
The lapels were too big.
Right. Must have been very heavy as well.
Oh, it was hugely heavy, and do you know what? I didn't even bother taking it back to England.
In fact, it's not really ever cold enough in this country to wear it.
I was about to say to you, I never even bothered taking it back to England because it was so heavy and so big. You needed a separate suitcase for it. It was so thick and big.
You couldn't even fold it, could you?
No, you couldn't. And the worst thing was the lapels, because the lapels literally came to your shoulders.
Right.
Because in New York. You know how cold it gets with the wind shear factor across Manhattan.
Yes,
you actually wrapped
wind shear actually. Something else.
Yeah. Well, what do they call it?
Well, it's wind.
No, it's
wind.
When
do you mean the wind chill?
The wind chill when it goes from 0 degrees normal
the actual temperature
to
changes,
-20.
Yeah, because the temperature being measured by the thermometer is say 0 degrees.
That's right.
But it's actually -20.
It's -20 because the wind off the East River meets the wind off the Hudson River, and they meet in the middle.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that the lapels were that wide because actually you needed to be able to pull your collar up and wrap it round your head and then close it above your head. You see what I mean? As like a hat.
See out.
Eh?
How'd you see out?
Well, you see out through the middle because it's too similar. But anyway, there we are. But no, I mean, I've sometimes objected to paying huge amounts of money for clothes on the basis that they don't last very long or you tire of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd paid £4,500 for a suit. That seems a bit extravagant.
I suppose I would if it was a special occasion.
Well, you wouldn't look any good in it, though.
Eh?
You wouldn't look any good in it. It'd be a waste of time and money.
Oh, that's very nice, isn't it?
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you should bother.
Well,
somebody's posted a picture, by the way, of what looks like an outdoor market with a sign that says Russell and Rachel. With a load of shirts hanging up, and Paul says your shirts are going well, MG.
Your shirts are
going
well.
The kind of place,
well, that's right. Yeah,
that's the kind of place they could end up. Look, yeah. It's a sort of outdoor market where you can buy stuff.
I'm sure you're getting back. Honestly, I'm absolutely sure. But
well, I'll keep you updated on that.
Yeah, please do.
Confidence is not high at the moment.
No, well, that's for the non-believers.
But I mean, just to be serious for a moment, I mean, presumably these guys would have insurance for that kind of thing. I mean, I gave them my barber, for example, to get re-waxed.
Yeah.
Right, now that was £60.
Sure.
Now if they'd lost that,
sure,
they would have had to replace it.
All right. Okay. Listen.
What do you mean okay? Yeah, you don't care about any of this, do you?
We talked about the barber yesterday.
No, I know, but I'm saying I took it to the same place.
Very good.
If they had lost that, they would have had to replace it.
Right, very good. No, that's okay. I understand what your concerns. Honestly, I'm really concerned.
I am concerned.
I'm concerned about your concerns.
You're not at all.
No, I am. Listen, you know that I keep reminding our audience that we're having a new website built, and there's a page in it's going to be your recipes.
That's correct.
Now, are these going to be recipes just about exotic foods that you like?
Well, not really. Just going to be recipes of things that I cook, basically. I mean, I won't be doing what some people do.
Yes.
Because, funnily enough, I was talking to somebody who's a bit of an expert in this the other day.
Yes.
And they said you have to be very careful with recipes, because in the newspaper business, magazines, they're always running recipes.
Yeah.
And if they ever find out that they're running a recipe that's never been tested,
right,
you know, they get into terrible trouble.
Sorry, who gets into trouble?
Well, the people publishing the recipe, and also the people seeking to take ownership of it.
Why?
Well, do you remember there was a scandal a few years ago? I can't remember which particular chef it was.
Yes,
but it might have been Delia Smith, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
because they pump out these books, you know, at the rate of 10 to a dozen, and sometimes they publish the recipe books without actually having tried the recipes.
Okay,
and if you try the recipe and it doesn't work out, you know, that's a bit of a no-no.
I didn't know a recipe couldn't work out. I thought it was just a case of whether it's good or indifferent or bad.
No, because you know some recipes are so complicated. And when you try and follow them and it doesn't work out, you go, well, this clearly doesn't work.
The reason I'm talking to you about this is that on your recipe page, which will be on your website, which will be the twomikes.co.uk.
It'll be full of, like, simple tips as well, because a lot of people ask me for these things. They say, you know, how do you do that? Or how do I make a frittata? How do I do scrambled eggs? Just stuff like that.
Now, what I want to ask you about is, will you venture into the world of sweets?
Well, I might do.
Because this apparently is where people most desperately fail at dinner parties and that sort of stuff. They follow all your frittata, is it?
Frittata.
Frittata. They follow your frittata and they follow all your curries and all that kind of stuff. But the thing that most fails and kills a dinner party is the last one. So I'm going to ask you if you've...
That's very true, because funnily enough, if it doesn't look good, mostly people don't want to eat it.
Yeah, and also remember that they're at their most vulnerable, and it has to look better than any other food to tempt you to eat it after you've had 2 courses already.
Exactly.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you if you've tried.
I would just go for cheese.
Have you ever tried any? Have you tried
what
sweets? You tried making your own sweets?
I used to work in a bakery.
Right. Okay.
So I used to make Hungarian confectionery for a living.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to give you the top 10 sweets. You tell me your level of success or whether or not you've done it. Apple pie.
Apple pie I can make, yes.
Cheesecake.
What sort of apple pie?
Well,
I mean, do you mean short
apple
crust?
pie's apple pie.
Oh, no, it's not. You can make it with short crust pastry.
I don't know. I mean...
You can make it different, open
apple pie like Mum used to make,
My mother was a terrible cook.
Okay, apple pie. Yeah. Cheesecake.
Cheesecake, yes.
Rhubarb crumble.
Rhubarb crumble, yes.
Victoria sponge cake.
Victoria sponge cake, yes.
Well, you can make Victoria sponge cake.
It's very simple. It's very simple to make sponge.
Have you got, like, the cans at home that you do it in?
Cans?
Yeah.
What, you mean headphones?
No, you idiot. Don't you make a sponge in a...
What, you mean a whisk?
No, in a circular can with where you put like.
What do you mean, a baking tin?
Yes, a baking tin.
Yes, of course,
right.
I've got a baking tin.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
What else do you think you put it in?
Well, I didn't know you had these things at home to be able to cook them.
Of course.
Right, cupcakes.
Cupcakes, yeah.
Now, cupcakes are fairy cakes, aren't they?
Basically. I mean, you might as well just make Victoria sponge and put them into small little, sort of...
Yeah, but then you put Smarties on the top, don't you?
You can put any number of things on the top.
I put Smarties on the top.
Vermicelli, hundreds of thousands.
Oh, Smarties.
Put some pineapple on the top for you.
Yeah, you could do if you like, yeah. Now, I don't know why this comes into the range of sweets,
What's
but
that?
Bread.
Bread? Now, funnily enough, I've never made bread.
Right.
I've never tried to make bread.
John Lennon did.
Did he?
John Lennon took 2 years off.
John Lennon made bread?
Yeah, and baked bread.
I mean, of all the parts of the show, I thought you would put John Lennon's name in. I didn't think it would be the bread section.
No, he did, honest to God. When Sean Oko Lennon was born,
Lennon.
And he wrote
Is that what he's called?
Sean O'Lennon.
Is he?
When he was born, and he wrote that song, beautiful, 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 beautiful boy, which I think is the worst song he ever wrote.
I quite like that.
I thought it was
well, if you're a father, though, and you've got a son, it's nice.
Beautiful boy. And he said, well, I've spent 2 years making bread and looking after Sean. While Yoko Ono was out literally increasing the Lennon fortune by a factor of like 10% every week.
But not necessarily by producing anything other than what he'd already done.
Oh, exactly. She was
only negotiating better deals for the stuff that he'd done.
Precisely.
Did anybody ever buy her art, by the way? Apart from him.
John Lennon did, obviously, yeah. So, no, but what happened was they remember, I think it was Paul McCartney who made a bit of an aside and said, life has changed since John and I grew up in Liverpool. Yeah. We never thought we'd have a wife who had a $10 million apartment just to put her fur coats in, which was the second one in the Dakota.
Yeah, right.
Exactly, yeah. And all that kind of thing. That's what New York women do, isn't it?
The ones that get that kind of money, yeah.
Yeah, they do. They buy an apartment and they chill it down to a temperature that keeps their fur.
Although I must admit, I haven't been there really much recently in the winter time. I don't know if the number of fur coats has dwindled at all because
I think fur coats are making a comeback. Honestly,
really,
that's what I read in the fashion journals. I read.
You read fashion journals,
just to get to the end of this list, okay? Yeah, so you've never done bread?
I've never made bread. No, although because when we worked in a bakery, we used to get the bread made by a Greek guy who lived in Camden Town and had a bakery down there, because the difference between making bread and sort of cakes is you need a different oven.
Yeah, I can understand
purposes,
that. Right, chocolate chip cookies.
Chocolate chip cookies, easy to make.
Right, lemon drizzle cake.
Yes.
Number 8.
My kids can make some of this stuff,
Mary Berry.
My 9-year-old son can make a lemon drizzle cake.
Yeah, I keep in touch with the way the world goes.
Any of that, did you?
No, I did. Your kids can make lemon drizzle cake.
That's quite amazing. That 9-year-old can make lemon drizzle cake.
I think it's excellent. Honestly, yeah. But, time is short. But Mary Berry, after, the big row about
Great British Bake Off,
she gave an interview or something, and within that she said, if any friends come round, she said, I'd just whip up a lemon drizzle cake. It's the easiest thing, and everybody loves it.
Yeah.
Is that
true?
That's made of lemon and has sugar on the top, is that right?
Well, it's not made of lemon, no. It has lemon flavour in it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's basically another sponge-type cake.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
2 more left.
Yeah.
Savoury pie.
Now, savoury pie I haven't made.
I don't know what savoury pie is.
Well, I presume they mean by that something like steak kidney pie, don't they?
Oh, I see. I thought they meant something like, what's those little things you pick up and put in your mouth? Little savoury things.
Savouries. Well, like cheese straws, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, like little quiches.
Well, that's
is
a
quiche.
That well, that's a quiche.
No, but it's
not a savoury pie.
No, it's savoury, isn't it?
No, it's a quiche.
All right, well, listen, the last
savoury
one.
Pie is a savoury pie.
Is it?
Surely.
Well, yeah, but how do you define savoury?
Well, savoury is not sweet, is it?
Oh, I see, right. So it could be sausage?
So it wouldn't be an apple pie.
Could be sausage pie?
Well, you wouldn't make a sausage pie, would you?
Anyway, listen, the last one.
Kidney pie you would make, chicken and mushroom pie.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
The last one, rainbow sponge cake.
Rainbow sponge cake. Why are you saying it so slowly?
Well, because I thought it was going to say...
Well, it's a sponge cake. I don't know what a rainbow sponge cake is.
I thought I'd read it as rhubarb sponge cake, but it's not. It's rainbow.
I don't know what
rainbow is.
But if it's a sponge cake, it's a sponge cake, and you can put different toppings on it.
Look, I tell you what.
I once made, for my daughter's christening.
Yes.
I'm not even sure if you were there.
Sorry, which daughter?
I've only got one daughter.
One daughter, that's right, yes. So this is a long time ago then.
Yes, it was.
Quarter of a century.
When I was living in New York.
Exactly.
It'll be her birthday soon. And she's going to be 26, funnily enough.
Exactly.
But I made a massive square christening cake. And if you were there, you would remember it, because it was in my apartment on 30th Street, the one that you abandoned.
Oh, yes.
So were you there or not? It would have been...
probably.
Around about, I think, might have been sort of, December or January or something like that.
I may have been there. Year? I used to come over every New Year's Eve and stay for a week or so.
I can't remember. Anyway, it was a lovely big christening party we had, and I made this big cake. And
yes.
It's a big square cake, sort of, the size of... half of, I don't know, about sort of 12 inches square.
Size of a Manhattan phone book?
Bigger than that.
Right, okay.
Bigger than that. And I wrote on it as well, because I can do that.
Okay. Yeah, so...
Happy christening.
So what's the point of this story?
Well, I'm telling you about my culinary talent.
Okay, and did you have sufficient...
I made it from scratch.
Did you have sufficient oven facilities in New York, which were actually quite restricted in the apartments we lived in, to be able to do that?
Yeah, because if you haven't got a big enough tin, for example, or your tin is too big to go into the oven...
You make 2.
You just make 2 smaller ones.
Weld them together and put the icing over the top.
Well, see, that's part of the trick. That's part of the trick. The whole trick that you learn when you do commercial baking is that an awful lot can be covered up by the decorations.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Indeed, I do.
So, I mean, maybe when you come down to my place in Sussex, you'll be treated to lemon drizzle cake.
Well, it'd be nice to get the invitation, wouldn't it?
Well, I've given you an invitation.
What?
I've given you an invitation.
Oh, have you?
You said you were coming.
Oh, really?
Have you forgotten?
Well,
you have, haven't you?
I say yes to a lot of things just to shut you up.
Oh, okay, fine. All right. Well, I couldn't care less whether you come. The invitation didn't actually come from me anyway.
Oh, that's very nice.
We've got loads to talk about, including saying no instead of yes all the time. There's a bit of an Oxford quiz we might do as well.
Indeed.
To see how intelligent you are. And, of course, Porky Vision coming up as well.
The sun goes down like a bad, bad dream. You end up tight. Gotta let us steam. They say they can break you, but
We are the two mics. We'll have to figure out what the Porky quiz is going to be on tomorrow, by the way.
Yes,
so have a little think about that.
Yeah,
and we'll try and discover by the end of this show
We certainly will.
what that's going to be on. Porky Vision is going to be on as well. Today, Martin says, Mike Parry hasn't watched telly for Porky Vision and he doesn't revise for the Porky quiz. What does he do all week?
Excuse me.
What does he do all week? It's a great question, that.
I always... look, when you say revise for the Porky quiz, you make it sound like it's a school exam. The point is that normally the Porky quiz is about a subject in which I have spent years acquiring knowledge about. You okay?
Yeah, like the one we did last week.
Sorry?
What was the one we did last week? Elizabeth Taylor.
Elizabeth Taylor.
1.5 out of 10 you got.
Yeah, but the point is, I have so much knowledge in my head, I can't always filter it out in the right space of time during the Porky quiz.
Now, Mike is an Arsenal fan, sent in a picture of his mother's, or his mother-in-law's rainbow sponge cake. And it basically looks rather nice. It's a whole different, I suppose I should have worked this out, different coloured sponge.
That's lovely.
To replicate a rainbow.
That's very close to my favourite, which is Battenberg.
Yes.
I love a Battenberg cake.
Yes, I know that.
Absolutely love it.
You'll eat a whole one at one sitting, won't you?
Oh, easy, because it's got marzipan around the edge as well.
That can't be good for you.
And all that kind of stuff. Listen, have you seen this latest? I mean, there's been so much talk on today about artificial intelligence and all that,
yes.
right? And I have seen this amazing thing where we both know the programme 60 Minutes in New York, don't we?
60 Minutes, yes.
Right, OK. For the latest
Morally
episode...
safer.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. For the latest episode of 60 Minutes, the US Current Affairs programme, a chap called Charlie Rose...
Charlie Rose, yes, I remember him.
Exactly. Charlie Rose interviewed an artificial intelligence robot woman who gave him straight answers to questions like, do you fancy me, and all that kind of
really?
stuff. Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And was this robot is there a picture of the robot? Did it look like a robot? Did it look like a woman?
I'm going to show you so that you can see, so you can spread the word to our listeners. She looks exactly like a good-looking lady, okay?
Well, she looks like something out of a science fiction film, actually, doesn't she?
Well, you say that, but I mean...
she looks like something out of Blade Runner to me.
Well, what they deliberately did was...
Have you seen Blade Runner?
I've seen Blade Runner,
Have you?
Yeah. No, I've heard about Blade Runner.
You've heard about it?
Heard about Blade
okay.
Runner, yeah.
Right.
What they deliberately did was they didn't want to make her look completely human, so the viewers knew that part of her was not human, you know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Yes.
Because if you see the image below, that's her when she's fully human. You see what I mean?
See. When she's wearing the full skin and everything else.
That's right. But they took
in the other picture, she's kind of she looks like a cyborg.
That's right. They've taken her wig off and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll give you some of the questions here, right?
Yeah, go on.
So. For the latest episode of 60 Minutes, the US Current Affairs programme, Rose gently interrogated the lady who...
Shouldn't they be doing something on the presidential election?
Well, you'd have
thought
thought
they doing interviewing robots?
I don't know.
2 weeks away from the most important decision that anybody's going to make for quite some time.
And you know Donald Trump got the date wrong.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he was saying, you've got to vote on November the 28th.
Well, he's now
and then somebody
declared
pointed
war.
out everybody else is voting on the 8th.
he's also now declared war on the party for whom he's the nominee. Well, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
You guys don't want me? Okay. I want respect.
He's just come over and manage Swansea instead.
That's right,
That'll be better for him.
But anyway, so the woman has a responsive face. She wears makeup, but she took her wig off just so that the viewers didn't get confused.
She wears makeup? Why would she wear makeup?
She wears makeup. Right. Now then, so Charlie Rose asks this robot, what is your goal in life?
Yeah.
She responds to become smarter than humans and immortal.
Smarter than the average bear?
Yeah. She then...
That's a bit worrying, isn't it?
Yeah.
She becomes smarter than humans and immortal.
Yeah.
That sounds more like Terminator.
She then goes on to say, the threshold will be when biological humans can back themselves up. Then you can all join me here in the digital world.
Oh, yeah.
This is her speaking.
Yeah.
Isn't that
so
spooky?
you can plug... You know what backing up means, don't you?
What?
You don't know, do you?
Yeah, backing up means saving information so it doesn't get destroyed.
Yeah, well, not just that, but say, for example, you should always back up your phone. Everything that's on your phone.
Exactly.
So you should plug it in occasionally to your PC
Indeed.
or your laptop so that the information is saved in case your phone either gets lost or destroyed.
Quite right.
It's a shame I couldn't have backed up my shirts.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah.
But then, now this is made by some company in Hong Kong, but then they just go on to have a normal conversation. It's quite spooky.
Well, like what? Tell us. Talk us through it.
Hang on. Let me
What else did he ask
see. Well, he had a conversation like,
the thing that I would imagine you would find slightly unnerving would be the tone of the voice.
No,
because the voice would not sound human, would it?
This is the most incredible thing about it.
Yeah.
The robot is programmed to respond in conversation to your facial expressions.
Okay.
So the robot can tell whether you are stressed.
So the robot is scanning you all the time.
Scanning you all the time.
Right.
The eyes in the robot are not just eyes; they're scanners.
We've got to get one of these robots.
Well, we must, yeah. And they're scanning you all the time, literally, to make out. So, for instance, the robot has cameras inside her own eyes, and she has cameras which are hidden on all other parts of her body, which are scanning the human, and enable her to see and detect facial and voice recognition abilities in the human.
Right.
She can create spontaneous responses based on algorithms processing her conversations.
Do you mean algorithms?
Algorithms. That's right. Yeah, algorithms. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, for instance, before Charlie even started talking to her, and he'd moved into her view, she said very abruptly and without any prompting, "Hi, I've been waiting for you."
Really?
How about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
And then Charlie said, "Waiting for me?" And then she
He probably
said,
doesn't get that sort of greeting very often.
Hey?
He probably doesn't get that kind of greeting very often.
No, but get this.
So was this designed to put him at ease,
hang
or
on,
what?
Hang on, get this.
Go
Just
on.
a period of silence. So she said, "Hi, I've been waiting for you." And Charlie Rose said, "Waiting for me?" And then she said, "No, not really. But it makes a good pickup line, doesn't it?"
Ah.
That's a woman robot talking to a human.
Yeah.
I mean, my
so
God.
presumably, and if you live long enough to see it, I'm sure that we will be interacting an awful lot more with robots than anybody else. But have you seen the other story about Google? Because they've decided to create an artificially intelligent assistant.
Oh, yes.
Right, so that you can ask it questions, a bit like Siri, which you probably don't have on your phone. But
Siri, what's Siri?
Siri is the speaking voice that all Apple products have.
Okay,
so if you've got an iPad, you've got an iPhone, you can ask Siri a question.
Siri.
Like you can say to Siri, what's the best way for me to get from here to Paris?
Yes.
Siri.
Oh, yeah.
And Paris will come, and Siri will come back in a rather sort of mundane voice and tell you.
Okay.
And people have been playing tricks on it, like if you ask, it stopped answering questions like, where's the best place to bury a body?
Yeah.
Because it started to get all screwed up about it.
Yeah, right, sure.
But apparently Google are trying to do one of these, right? And here's what they want. They're recruiting comedy writers, right?
Yes.
To give it better banter.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And the assistant is called Alexa. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, competing with Alexa, which is Amazon's one.
Yeah.
Alexa, this is a dead parrot. And Alexa would be programmed to say, no, it isn't, it's just pining for the fields.
Yeah.
So that it would quote you back a sort of a funny line from Monty Python.
Oh, I see. So I'll have it in its sort of its brain.
Yeah, because all of these things are artificially created, right? So they can only do what they're instructed to do.
Sure.
I mean, if this one can learn, then that's something new.
Absolutely. The one that I most remember is that years ago, when mobile phones first started getting networks, the way people tried to get onto network, and I know this for sure because I was speaking to a guy who worked for one of the big networks. Yeah. They used to employ comedians to tell really awful jokes. Yeah. I mean, awful in the sense of, how can you say that?
Just not very funny, you mean?
Because you know what? What would happen is, in those days, some smart guy in the city would see this joke come up. These were written jokes. They weren't audio. Right. You'd get sent this joke, and you wouldn't know where it was sent from. And it would be a terrible joke. I mean, offensive.
Well, like tasteless.
Tasteless, offensive, or very, very funny or something.
Yeah.
And you thought it was so funny, you would then send it to your mate. And your mate would then send it to a mate, and so on. And sometimes it would go right round the world.
So
but it would
that was sort of the old-fashioned version of something going viral.
Absolutely right. The old-fashioned version of something going viral, but it would all be tagged with whichever network you were on. You see what I mean?
Right.
And that would bring in millions of potential new customers and that kind of stuff.
Oh, so they used to just track where it went.
Yeah, exactly. But they used to employ professional comedians.
Right.
I mean, for instance, look, I'm not saying that you ever did it, but take Who's that guy who did the warm-up in Hen and Chickens the night we were there? Jimmy
Carr.
Jimmy Carr.
Yeah.
Now, Jimmy Carr can tell tasteless jokes.
He can.
You know, I mean...
It's in the time, by the way.
Yeah, but he's very clever. But they'd literally employ him to give us you 3 worst tasteless jokes. And then, they pay him a lot of money for it, but then it would get so much audience worldwide, it was worth it.
Right. Fascinating stuff. Yeah. Now, coming up in the next hour, we've got loads more going on. We're going to be talking about going to Mars. We're also going to be talking about Oxford University testing, because you claimed that you almost got into Oxford, but we've got a little test for you. Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to The Two Mike. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Dr. Linda Papadopoulos, who's a psychologist. She's got a book out called Unfollow, Live Your Life in Your Own Terms. I think I've always lived my life in my own terms, haven't you?
I have always lived my life on my own terms. You've been dragged and pulled and pushed around by pressures in life over which you lost control.
Not true at all. Also, we'll be discussing the benefits of sending a few people to Mars, because Barack Obama has announced that they want to send some people to Mars in the next 15 years, which is a bit unusual. Don't forget, it's Porky Vision today as well. The best TV review this side of the Milky Way. You're listening to The Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry. Being in your 20s will be in equal measure exhilarating and daunting, liberating and constraining, effortless and complicated.
What's that?
I didn't find it particularly complicated.
Sorry, what's that come from?
That's a quote from Dr. Linda Papadopoulos' book.
Oh, she's joining us at 2:15.
2:15?
Yes,
oh,
is that right?
So you've gone from mad sort of, northern comedian voice to 2:15. Buckinghamshire special.
Sorry.
You're a complete chameleon. You don't even know who you are.
Your childish pursuit of trying to embarrass me, but
I'm not trying to embarrass you.
Just because of the fact that I enunciate the Queen's English properly.
No, I'm just explaining why you seem to have some completely different diction from one hour to the next.
I've got a shocking note here.
Have you?
And it says, our listeners, what are you laughing at?
I don't know what's coming.
Are you going to spill more stuff on your shirt?
I'm going to try not to.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what it is, right?
You've already got tomato ketchup on it. You're going to put some coffee on it.
I don't know what it is. When you wear a white shirt, you always spill things on it.
Well, I know that. That's why I don't wear white shirts when I go out for dinner, because, anything could happen.
Right.
Anyway, listen, this note here, it's from Joe. He says, am I right in thinking, MG, that you were asked when you went in there, do you have a brother?
Yeah.
And you said no. And this person has rather cruelly reminded you that actually Porky did once try and impersonate somebody as their brother.
That's right, it was Noel Edmonds.
Noel Edmonds, that's
right.
right.
In fact, you sent a picture. It wouldn't be the first time Porky's pretended to be someone's brother.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. How about this from Kelly? How about famous quotes as a topic for the Porky quiz?
Okay.
Famous quotes?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Well, that was easy.
I'll do that. That's it. A great one, yeah.
Okay.
Now, tell you what I was going to tell you about. What was I going to talk to you about?
I don't know.
I was going to talk to you about, well... We were just talking about body language and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? But in the future, none of us will have to go to the office because it'll all be, doing it on video screens and all that kind of
work
stuff.
and all that.
Virtual, Well, video conferencing and all that.
Right. Some people don't make it into the office every day already.
They don't. But in Japan, anyway, they've come up with this great trick. So you and I go out on the bladderation trail, but all night. Imagine our New York days, sometimes, get until 5 a.m. You've got to be...
Sometimes you just went straight to work.
Yeah, straight to work. Well, we've done that at the Daily Express, haven't we? Come straight out of a Chinese restaurant at 6:30 a.m. in Soho, and gone straight back to work. I agree. But anyway, in the future, it'll all be on video conferencing. Right. And when it is, you can buy this app, and when your fat, ugly mug is in the screen there, right, and you look as though you've just been on the sauce for 36 hours, and bags under your eyes and stubble on your face, this app actually reshapes your whole face. It just re-images your whole face, makes you look as though,
Isn't that going to be bad news for sort of what you might call sort of mischievous-minded people, who go on things like Tinder, and then they decide to have like a FaceTime conversation with somebody. So not only is their facial profile wrong, but also their talking head profile is wrong as well.
That's right, yeah.
And then they never meet up with the person.
But it's brilliant, isn't it? There's your boss, in New York, and you're in London, and it's Skip Bornhooter here. How are we doing? How are the figures? And you've been out all night on the razzle in some nefarious joint in the city of London. And yet, when your face appears on the screen, the app has literally
miraculously made you look all right,
glossed you all up to look brilliant and all that.
Well, I suppose as you get older, that becomes more and more difficult, doesn't it? The app has to work a bit harder. Yeah, a bit like that. So remember that scene from Back to the Future, which was one of the first times you'd ever seen like a fax machine or indeed video conferencing.
Yes.
Where the guy gets fired by his Japanese boss, and the big screen comes up, and he's like, "You're fired," and then "You're fired" comes out of the fax machine. Why are you looking at me like I'm talking complete and utter ancient?
I'm trying to remember the scene in the film.
You don't remember
I was a big fan of Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Did this happen before?
Well, I think maybe it's Back to the Future 2, I don't know. It's when Marty is working, and he does something wrong, and they find out about it at work, and they fire him. But look, he's fired by video hookup.
It seems odd.
Which is the first time it happened.
Seems shocking. Listen, next week, when we may be doing our later show again, we'll be talking to Sandra, won't we?
Sandra Lee, probably.
Sandra Lee, who is our favourite Australian correspondent.
Yeah.
What do you think she would make of this? Do you know what the favourite...
kangaroo fur slippers.
Kangaroo fur slippers. They're being imported into London.
Really?
They're made of kangaroo skin.
Now, they've got kangaroo fur on the inside of them rather than on the outside.
I mean...
Is that right?
Yeah.
So they're like regular shoes on the outside?
Yeah. No, but they're made of kangaroo skin.
Well, it's kangaroo fur, isn't it?
And kangaroo fur.
And fur.
The skin...
Skin and fur.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't have the fur on its own, would you? The fur's got to be attached to the skin.
No, but what I'm saying is that not only are they kangaroo skin on the outside, they line them then with the kangaroo's fur.
Yeah.
I didn't know kangaroos had fur, did you?
Well, of course they've got fur.
No, they haven't.
They're not bald, are they?
No, but I mean, they're not like a lion.
An albino cat? Well,
no,
not like a lion.
Well, they don't have like a mane like a lion. Do you see what I mean?
Well, they don't have a mane, but if you look at a female lion, it doesn't have a mane, but it still has fur.
The furry
Doesn't
footwear...
Why are you not paying any attention to me?
What did you say?
You're not paying any attention to me at all today.
No. I know what
I'm saying, think of a female lion or a lioness, right?
Yes.
Also doesn't have a mane,
but
still has fur.
Well, they're short-haired animals, aren't they? That's what I'm saying.
They still have fur, though.
You know, I mean, actually, a spaniel has got more fur than a lion, hasn't it?
It's got longer hair.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But a lion or a kangaroo or a dog, even a short-haired Labrador, has fur. You call it fur.
Yeah, there's a question for you.
Yeah.
You've got a Labrador.
Yes.
Do you have to have it shorn sometimes?
No.
So what happens then with short-haired dogs?
Well, they molt, basically.
Oh, they molt, I see. That's how the hair
You brush
comes
them.
out. I see.
You brush them. They quite nice being brushed, actually.
Right, okay.
It's quite an exciting
Anyway, it says
experiment.
here, the furry footwear, this is the...
Are they expensive, these things?
Well, I'm just about to tell you. The fashion must-have of the autumn, okay, which is...
Well, you paid £75 for a pair of slippers once, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
What were they? They were those kind of funny pointy Aladdin-type shoes.
Well,
What were they made of?
Leather.
Were they just leather, or were they
Leather.
not some kind of speciality?
No, it wasn't alligator or crocodile. It was leather, honestly. Anyway, it says the kangaroo fur lining, which has been condemned by animal welfare groups as being cruel. The furry footwear first cited the Gucci Spring-Summer 2016 runway show.
Oh, yeah.
And immediately became an essential fashion accessory for celebrities, including that bloke who did The Night Manager. What's his name?
What, you mean Tom Hiddleston?
Tom Hiddleston, that's right.
That bloke that did The Night Manager.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you now say the guy that went out with Taylor Swift for a while in a very bogus PR instituted relationship?
It was pretty shocking, that, wasn't
Well,
it?
it was pretty shocking when I found out. Yeah. And I don't know whether this was, in fact, in any way to be sort of drawn conclusions from.
Yes.
But supposedly, their affair began just before The Night Manager was about to be screened on US television.
Well, there you go.
So what does that tell you?
A bit suspicious. Don't you think that if your backside, for want of a better word, had been flashed to millions of people around the world...
What, you mean his?
His, yeah. Tom Hiddleston.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Don't you remember Up Against the Wall?
No.
Oh, come off
yes, sorry.
Well, it's the most famous scene.
Oh, you mean in the TV show?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that was him.
Well, of course it was
him.
him.
About a bottom double.
No, of course, no, he didn't.
Like Britt Eklund did.
She did, actually, yeah. And I tell you the other thing. No, it's gone off the track a bit. But, I mean, the thing is, if everybody you ever met... You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, hello, I'm Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
Started sniggering.
Right. But why would they?
Well, because they've seen your backside.
Well, so what?
Well, I mean, that's embarrassing.
What are you, schoolboy? Why is it embarrassing?
Well, I mean, you know...
Why is it embarrassing?
Well, you'd snigger and say, oh, really? Yeah, you've got a nice ass. You know, I mean, you know, people would say that because everybody's seen it.
2016, nobody cares.
No, I think they do.
No, they don't.
Well, I would.
Well, I wouldn't. Because you're a prude and you live in the Victorian era.
I wouldn't let anybody...
I don't think anybody wants to see yours, by the way.
Well, I wouldn't let anybody view my posterior.
Also, it would have been impossible for you to complete that particular manoeuvre.
Oh, yeah?
Because you're not tall enough.
Yes, it's a bit harsh. But in fact, you're absolutely right, you know. Tom Hiddleston, 6'2",
yeah.
And the woman that he was...
She was sort of on a shelf.
Rogerising.
Yeah.
No, she wasn't. He was just inside the door of their room. She was 6'2" as well.
Yeah,
so,
we needed a box to stand on,
well,
like Humphrey Bogart.
Actually, I mean, without getting too deeply into the intimacy of sexual relations, when a 6'2" man wants to have sex standing up with a 6'2" woman, that doesn't work.
What?
Well, you should. A better.
Why doesn't it work?
Well, a better mix would be.
How do you know anyway? You're about as far away from 6'2" as you are from Mars.
No, but a better mix.
And you've never been out with a woman who's 6'2" either.
No, hang on. Do you not remember in the same programme there was a very little fella? He was about 5'6".
Yeah, the little guy that got killed.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Tom Hiddleston beat him to death because he was going to, expose him.
Because he was the only one that didn't believe he was who he said he was.
That's right. Yeah,
Great show, by the way.
No, what was his name?
I can't remember.
But he's a famous actor because he's in a West End theatre production at the moment, and he went on to play some sort of like Dr. Dolittle type character in another series.
That's right.
Anyway, the point of the story is, if you look at it anatomically, it would be better for the man to be 5'8".
You've given us a lot of thought, haven't you?
Or 5'10" in relationship with a 6'2"
Well, you just
woman.
got a set square and a compass out. I mean, it can work in many different ways.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about this, you see.
I know you're not.
I'm not sure
I can tell.
Anyway,
luckily the time is too short for us to
I haven't told you
carry
about the kangaroo
with
slippers
that ridiculous conversation. Well, hold on to the kangaroo slippers, and we'll talk about some more of those coming up next.
That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Lie down on the couch. What does that mean? You're a nut. You're crazy.
Here we are, the two mics. Simon says this. Porky's only suggesting a taller woman, as most women are taller than his 5'6".
Oh, that's very nice.
That's nice, isn't it? And
I'm
Bolo,
5'8" £3/4".
Yeah, just like Adrian Mole. Here's Bolo, who says, "Can you walk in these kangaroo slippers, or have you got to hop?" It's quite funny, isn't it?
Oh, quite
very
like
good.
it, yeah.
Now, that's enough stupid jokes, because we're going to talk about something very, very serious now. Dr. Linda Papadopoulos has got a book out called Unfollow, Living Life on Your Own Terms. Now, you see what she's done there. It's a sort of social media term, right?
Yes.
You unfollow people on Twitter.
Exactly.
You unfollow people on Facebook.
Indeed.
Let's talk to Dr. Linda and find out what it's all about. Dr. Linda, very good afternoon to you.
Hi there.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, the sort of overriding message of your book, I understand, is that sometimes it's just better to say no instead of saying yes to something you don't fancy doing.
Yeah, certainly that's part of it. I think the book came about because in my private practice I kind of see a lot of people, especially millennials, sort of people born after kind of the 80s, right? So and really they were kept coming into my practice, and they'd bring in their phones. So I wasn't just doing sort of therapy with them, I was sort of doing therapy to their digital identities. And a big part of what they were saying was how much pressure they felt to kind of keep up with the likes, or to conform to, posting pictures that are similar to other people, or comparing. And one of the issues around that was kind of losing a sense of entitlement over your own life, right? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I have to, or because I want to? And I think especially, and I don't know, I'd love to hear from you guys as guys, because for women especially, kind of saying no kind of goes against our nature. We're approval-seeking, we don't like confrontation, so saying no feels uncomfortable. And it was certainly a theme I heard more and more.
Do you know, Doc, if you don't mind me calling you Doc, because you've got a very long name.
What about Linda? Let's call her Linda.
Well, no, because that's rude, because doctor is a doctor.
Okay.
Thing is, Doc, where I think it is with men, because I remember being at school, there's always a guy in the class at school who's the best footballer, and then he's actually the best rower, and he's the best-looking guy, and he gets on better with the girls.
You, obviously, right?
Well, it may have been me. And the thing is, when that's emerging, when you're in your adolescence, you want to be that guy's friend. So if that guy comes to you and say, "Can you lend me £2? I haven't got any money," or "Can I borrow your bike?" or "Can I borrow your car?" or something like that, you say yes, because you want to be admired by this man. And it's terribly difficult to break out of that cycle.
Well, yeah, and sort of imagine that amplified sort of exponentially, because online, at least that guy you knew genuinely was like the footballer or the rower. Yeah. Online, we post sort of idealized versions of ourselves. So I post a picture of the one time I rode, or the one time that I, scored a goal. So all of a sudden, you're not even living up to something realistic.
Yeah.
It's airbrushed lives. I mean, for years we spoke about, don't compare yourselves to pictures in magazines. They're not real. Well, I don't think the lives that most of us, protest to have on things are in any way real as well. In fact, there's a really interesting study that I allude to in the book, which was, I think it came out of Bonn University a few years ago. So they looked at when we tend to post on social media and when we tend to surf. And the interesting thing is that we post pictures when we're feeling high, when our lives are going great, we're at a great restaurant, but we surf other people's pages when we feel like crap. So when we're sitting at home eating leftovers. So the differential between how I see myself and how I see everyone's life is amplified. So I think we just need to start being aware of these things.
Yeah, you see, you've very, very very succinctly summed up my colleague, Mr. Parry, here's state of mind, because he did spend his entire life at school wishing that he was the guy who was popular, wishing he was the guy that was taller, wishing he was a great footballer, wishing he was a good-looking one.
You're mad.
And now the same applies, whereas I've never cared what people think of me. I always do what I want, and I've never really felt the need to kind of prove myself to anyone.
What do you think protects you? What do you think helps you not to kind of buy into this idea?
My parents gave me an incredibly high level of self-esteem, and I don't know how they did it, because
probably because your old fellow was a nutter.
Well, he was a very intelligent man. He was an artist, actually.
Yeah, but he was also off his rocker.
Whereas you see, Mike Parry's father was a sort of grasping salesman type, and was always trying to better himself and tell lies about what he was really doing. So the thing was, I was given a sort of a very much more bohemian upbringing, if you like. I've wanted to find out exactly how they did it, because I've got children of my own. I'd like to give it to them as well.
Do you know, I think is interesting, sort of this idea of not conforming, right? So you say your dad was an artist, right?
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said of not being cookie-cutter versions of ourselves. And this is something, again, that, you know, I'm sure a lot of your listeners can attest to. For years, we've got one idea of what looks good, one idea of, you know, and I think now that's kind of being transformed to what success is, right? So is successful having stuff, or is it being happy, or is it not caring? Is it what you have? And I think it's time that we kind of, again, do perhaps what you said. Part of it absolutely comes from self-esteem, but I think part of it is this sense of entitlement, right? It's okay for me to define what I'm happy with, rather than looking around and getting the scripts. And the scripts are so darn monolithic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same scripts everywhere. If you're a girl, you need to be young and pretty. If a boy, you need to make a lot of money and be good at sport. I mean, it's very kind of cookie cutter, and I think the good thing, perhaps, about sort of social media is that if we talk about this enough, you know, the message will spread. So there is the potential. Because you know what? On a serious note, guys, as I'm speaking about this at Oxford Union in a couple of weeks, millennials have the highest levels of anxiety than any other age group, and that, you know, and this is by, you know, several very well conducted study. So what is going on? And I think one of the things that we're finding out is this pressure to conform, or to be so self-aware. You're always aware of what others think of you.
Sure,
right?
Sure. That is a big problem. You know, you want to be part of the pack, don't you? You don't want to be, you know, you don't want to be sent to Coventry or something like that. But listen, can I ask you about the most famous quote that I try to adhere to, Doc? And that is Franklin D. Roosevelt once said, never mind the man who can stand up to his enemies, show me the man who can stand up to his friends. Now, that is all about, you know, pressure, peer pressure, not wanting to upset people you're close to. But sometimes you have to, don't you?
Absolutely, you have to. And actually, that's one of the best ways to foster self-esteem. You know, one of the best ways to foster self-esteem is to do the difficult thing. If you always stay in that comfort zone of not rocking the boat, not upsetting, you not only will you never grow, but also your sense of who you should be won't change. And actually, the people around you will kind of just, you know, keep pushing and pushing, and as is human nature. So I think that is so true. But you know what? It's, you know, it's easy for people that are kind of, I guess, adults and have gone through that to say that. You kind of look at the pressures that young people have today. It's so prescriptive. Yeah. You know, you kind of think of identities. When we were kids, you kind of look at the people around you, and they sort of held up mirrors to your identity, right? So your mother would say, are you wearing that? Or your dad say, you're doing this. Now they develop an identity, they put it online, and they get thousands of people saying what they think. It's like a focus group on who you should be. So it's not the people that care about you. It's not the people that love you. It's the people that actually don't know you but have a few times to, like, heart you or retweet you or whatever the case is. And that, I think, you know, is a whole new set of skills that we need to be teaching our kids.
Sure. Now, as far as your book is concerned, I don't know whether it's a sort of self-help book or whether you want people to read it just out of interest. I mean, does it mean that you in your life have to operate as you write the book, if you like? I mean, are you able to do all the things that you tell everybody else to do?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't not know what you know, right? So as a psychologist, you're not exempt from feeling stuff, but actually I know, you know, enough of the research, and I know what I can do to help. And I think that's what the book's about. It defines a problem, but it suggests ways of approaching solutions. And I think I'm a big believer, though, in knowing where you are before knowing where you want to be. So sometimes, you know, I sit across some people that feel a certain way, and it's like having a map. They know they want to feel better, but they can't describe why they feel what they feel. And so the book part of it is kind of helping people understand this is possibly why you're feeling what you are, and then if you want to move forward, this is, what's worked for many people out there.
Sure, indeed.
Well, the book is called Unfollow: Living Life on Your Own Terms.
Yep.
Dr. Linda Papadopoulos. Thank you very much indeed.
Doc,
is it available in all the usual places?
Yes, all the usual places.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Linda Papadopoulos. Fascinating.
So you should take more note of that. You should take more note of
what?
Well, more note of the life plan that the wonderful doctor has just outlined to us. Because I think you try to be the hard guy too much the other way.
Not true.
I don't take notice of anybody in life. I do my own thing.
I do.
I'm an island. I stand on my own.
When did I say any of that?
Yeah, but you see, most of the
No,
time.
I didn't say any of that.
Most of the time.
I didn't say any of that. I said I don't care what people think of me.
Well, you see, I think you did.
We are the two mics. Loads coming up, including, of course, Porky Vision a little bit later on.
Yep.
We've decided the Porky quiz is going to be on famous quotes.
Indeed.
So I'll obviously inform the independent quizmasters.
Yes, please. Yeah.
About what your favourite quote is, so it doesn't appear in the quiz.
That's right.
The Franklin D. Roosevelt one.
A little bit later in the programme, I want to talk to you about the power pose.
What?
Do you know what the power pose is?
The power pose?
Yeah.
No idea.
During up to the last election, right, everybody was trying to make out that,
I'm trying to remember when the last election was.
A year ago, was it?
Was it? Well, when Cameron won
year ago last May.
When Cameron won the sort of majority government. It was last year, wasn't it?
Year ago last May.
2015,
And if you remember, in the run-up to it, all politicians of various parties started to look like they'd been severely damaged in a car crash or something.
Is this the kind of superhero pose?
Well,
that
yeah, absolutely. They were coming onto the stage and they were, bracing themselves in all sorts of strange ways. A bit like as though they'd been in one of these torture camps in Pyongyang, where Pyongyang, where you were made to sort of strike a pose and keep it for 13 hours.
It looked to me more like that movie Avengers Assemble, which is all the superheroes kind of stand there.
But anyway, listen, I've accessed a report which says it was all a complete load of rubbish and it should never have been taken seriously.
What a surprise.
The mood fooled themselves. I'll tell you about that a bit later in the show, okay?
I just wanted to say thank you to Lily Allen, actually, for apologising on behalf of the great nation from which we all stem, that we've been giving them such trouble in the old migrant camp over in Calais.
I can't believe this.
What the hell does she think she is? I didn't ask her to say sorry.
What has she done?
She's gone over there, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure that some of the conditions that you see there are quite upsetting, and you can get caught up in all the thing. But I mean, if you listen to Julia Hartley-Brewer yesterday, she was talking to a woman who goes out there to help the people in the camp, who brings them food and lodging. And Julia was saying quite rightly, an awful lot of these people are economic migrants.
That's right.
And the reason that they're not getting asylum in Paris, in France, is because they're not able to.
No.
But they're all able to come here, and that's what they're waiting for, because they know that if they get to this country, they will be looked after in some way, shape, or form.
When I see that midget-sized would-be leader of France, Mr. Sarkozy.
Sarkozy?
Yeah.
Well, he's the ex-leader of France. Why do you have to refer to his size?
Well, because he's about 5'7".
Yeah, but people don't refer to you as being a short.
Well, I'm 5'8" and 3/4.
Yeah, you're not.
But anyway, by the way, do you know that he, when he married his celeb wife,
Carla Bruni,
do you know he told? I read all this in a journal that I was studying.
Was this
last
the
weekend.
French Republic Journal?
No, it was the International International Journal of Relations. And
International Journal of Relations.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that where you're reading about Tom Hiddleston as well?
No. Why do you have to keep bringing that up? Eh?
Well, because people have been tweeting about it. Your fascination with
what do you mean?
With the geometry of the act itself seems extraordinary.
I just think it's so extraordinary that a man would flash his posterior.
Yeah, well, don't keep going on about
to
it.
millions of people and then think that he had any dignity left. He has no dignity left whatsoever.
What about actors who go?
It's disgusting.
What about people who play Equus on the stage, where you're basically naked?
That's artistic. That's artistic.
Well, it's television's art, isn't it?
Sorry?
Isn't television art?
Not in that sense, no. Anyway, what I was saying to you about
you were talking about Sarkozy.
Oh, yes, Sarkozy, yeah. He told everybody, he said that when I marry my wife, Carla,
well, this is Peter Sellers doing Sarkozy.
No. When I marry Miss Ruin, Carla, he said...
like Dr. Strange.
No, he said, the French people will regard it as one of the greatest love stories of all time. And he honestly thought it was going to give him a 10% boost in the polls. Yeah. Because they thought... Well, but she's not even French, is she, Carla?
No, I don't believe so.
She's Italian,
I think she's Italian, yeah.
Yeah, and must be
She did an album of songs, which I have, actually. Some of them are not bad, I have to say.
Really?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that. But anyway, the point I was making is that Mr. Sarkozy said if he gets into power again, because he's now running for the presidency of France again, He wants to head the Fifth Republic.
Well, poor old Francois Hollande has not had a very charmed existence, has he?
I mean, things
have gone horribly wrong.
Riding around on mopeds around France in the middle of the night, visiting his mistress.
Well,
and all
they like a bit of that in France.
Yeah, I suppose they do.
Anyway, so my message to Lily Allen is thanks very much indeed, but please don't go around apologising for other people.
On my behalf. And
I don't wish for you to apologise on my behalf or anybody else's.
And I totally agree with you. And what I was going to say is that Mr. Sarkozy says, well, if he gets in, he's going to push those camps in Calais over the Channel to England.
Yeah.
But you can't do that, Mr. Sarkozy. Do you not understand what's going on? You are supposed to give them succour and comfort, as was, Spain, as was Greece, as was Bulgaria.
Yeah.
The first country that these poor people...
But you see, that only applies to political refugees, not economic ones.
Exactly. But what you're supposed to do is the first country they reach in Europe, you have to take responsibility for them. Instead of which, the French for years now have just had a couple of gendarmes on the border with white gloves on, just waving, go through, go through.
It's a terrible scene. Anyway, I don't want to hear your particular political viewpoint on it. I just wanted to say thanks very much to Lily Allen.
I thought I'd let you know anyway.
Yeah, thanks. Nathan says this, if unfollowing is the key to happiness, then Jay Rayner must be ecstatic.
Yeah,
That's true, actually. He was the guy who blocked more members of our listening audience than anybody. He's still doing it, by the way.
I totally agree with you.
And how about this from Mr. Chili Flakes? He's found a pair of your kangaroo slippers from Gucci, 590 quid.
No.
£590.
Well, do you have a picture of these?
Well, they are Gucci, because, the picture I saw that you showed me...
Isn't that a bit cruel?
Those are like Gucci loafers, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Remember in New York in the 80s, everybody wanted to have a pair of Gucci loafers.
That's true.
And some of them had, rather hideously, the green and red little sort of stripe on the side.
Isn't that...
Do you remember that?
Eh?
You're not listening, are you? You're not listening to anything I'm saying today.
Say again.
Do you remember the green and red Gucci stripe?
Wasn't that in the watches we used to buy on the street corner from the man with the...
Yeah, but it's the Gucci stripe.
That's right, the Gucci stripe.
It's on everything that Gucci make.
The man on the street corner...
And they used to put it on the shoes.
Man on the street corner with
talking about the watch salesman.
Yeah, with his open suitcase.
And the fake Rolex.
That's right, do you want a Rolex? Oh, I'll have a Gucci,
They were great, actually. They were the best fake
$25.
watches. No, but they were the best fake watches that you could ever buy.
$25, right. And
they lasted for years.
And they did. And I had Gucci...
I got fake Cartier there.
I got fake everything. And but I made the mistake one time of taking one into a jeweller's in Surrey.
Yeah.
Seriously, and I said
fake Rolex.
Yeah, fake Rolex. Yeah, and
the only way you could tell it wasn't real was because the second hand ticked, didn't it? Because a real Rolex sweeps.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You're supposed to have a real Rolex.
Oh, I have got a real Rolex.
Well, do you not know how to tell it's a real Rolex?
No, I don't care. I just take it to
the second hand sweeps, right? It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Whereas the fake one ticks, if you know what I mean.
Well,
you don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
Not really, because I take my Rolex to Rolex HQ in London, in Smith Square in London, every 2 years.
Why?
And they send it back to Switzerland for a service.
A service?
Yes.
Why'd you get a watch service?
Because you've got to have a watch service, because I tell you why.
Why?
Well, some of my friends who are very highly paid footballers, they actually have a range of watches, and they have what's called a watch bed.
Eh?
A watch bed is when you put your watch on...
They're making too much money, these guys, aren't they?
Yeah, you put your watch on this machine, and it gyrates very, very gently to replicate the movement of the human wrist.
Really?
Because these great watches are not watches, they're chronometers.
Really?
And that means that they are...
I couldn't care less.
No, hang on.
See, this is the kind of thing that you think other people are interested in because you're fascinated by it. I'm not.
The chronometer is activated and powered by the movement of your wrist.
Uh-huh.
It is not activated and powered by a battery. It is not activated and powered by some crude winding up method inside the watch.
Right.
It is activated only by the movement of your wrist, as I'm
demonstrating
now.
So if you die, then it stops working?
Indeed, it does. Absolutely. If you're buried with it, it will never tick again.
Right.
Now, the point
it won't tick at all in the first place, will it?
Eh?
They probably don't tick at all in the first place.
They don't tick at all. They just move.
Well, you just said it will never tick again. I'm saying it probably never did tick.
That's an expression for a watch, isn't it? Anyway, what I'm saying is...
See the time.
My friend who has these beds, what they do is they undulate to
replicate... Which friend of yours has one of these, then?
I can't tell you. To replicate the movement of the wrist. And do you know what that stops? It stops the oil clogging in the minute parts inside the chronometer.
I could not be less interested.
Now, as I don't have a bed, because I don't want one, because I just think
you don't have a bed?
A watch bed.
Oh, a watch
bed.
Right.
I think that's a little bit over the top, I send my...
How much do these things cost, these watch beds?
About £1,500.
1,500 quid?
Yes.
For a box to put your watch on?
Yes, to make it, to let it
ridiculous.
move. Let it move, yeah. So I take mine to Smith Square, and by the way, to get into Smith Square, you have to have an official identity number as the owner of a Rolex watch. Every Rolex watch in the world...
Yeah.
Rolex...
Do you know this started off as a story about how you took a fake Rolex in?
No, hang on.
That was about half an hour ago.
No, I took that into an ordinary jeweller's. And
what did they say?
They said we don't deal with rubbish like this, and
I'm surprised you didn't get arrested.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't get arrested, really, as well. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, it just stopped working. I thought you could fix it. No, it's paste and all this kind of stuff,
dear. Yeah.
But the point of my story is...
What is the point of your story?
Everybody who owns a Rolex in the world is known to Rolex.
Are they?
Known to them.
Well, what if you give it to somebody else?
No good, because then if you try to get it serviced anywhere, from any Rolex dealer...
Well, so if you give say, for example, you give your Rolex watch to your son,
yes,
if you have one,
yes,
your son has to then take some piece of paper from you as well?
No, you have to inform Rolex who the new owner of the watch is. No, it's not. No, it's not. No.
Bonkers.
Because if you've got a Rolex watch that's not attachable to your identity, it's probably stolen.
Right.
It's probably stolen.
So if you took it in, suddenly the Sweeney would pop in and arrest you.
If you took it in, and they could not identify you as the rightful owner of that watch, they wouldn't touch it.
Really?
No.
Well, that was a fascinating little interlude. That's
I bet not many people know that.
Well, I don't think
not
they
a lot
care.
of our listeners will have
just
Rolexes.
Wasted about 12
I'm lucky
minutes,
to have one.
12
obviously.
minutes of everybody's life.
Not at all.
Talking about what is an elitist
Not
piece
at all.
of jewellery,
Not at all.
only worn by vain men with more money than sense.
No, worn by successful people. I think you'll find.
You see again. Let's go
like
back.
Karen Brady's got a Rolex.
Oh, great!
You know?
Oh, I must get one.
Like,
Karen's got one.
Like I've got, Dame Brady to you.
Yeah.
Like I've got a Rolex.
Yeah,
like,
because you think it makes you seem successful.
Like
but
the
in fact,
leaders of industry and fashion.
But in fact, all it does is mask your deep insecurity.
Because
you think in order to look good, you need to wear an expensive watch.
Nope, not
I've got a beautiful watch that my daughter bought me for my birthday.
Oh yeah, how much does that cost? 25 quid?
It costs a couple of hundred, I think. But you see, you've mocked that. You see, that is typical of you. You think for some reason that you are a better man than I am because you're wearing a Rolex. However, today you're not wearing a Rolex.
No.
You're wearing one of your children's watches.
No,
aren't
no, it's a Schwartz.
A Schwartz.
Schwartz, yeah.
Do you mean a swatch?
Swatch, that's it. Yeah, swatch.
How much did that cost you? It's like you've got it in a lucky bag.
It wasn't too expensive. It was about £390.
£390.
It's a working watch.
You were done.
I don't
shouting.
My £6,000 Rolex. Okay, I only wear when it's a
you only
big
wear
occasion.
it when you're going out with somebody, don't you?
So maybe
it's about once every 2 years.
Find that funny, do you?
Yeah, I do. Now, you hear that song quite a lot, don't you, on this radio station?
Yeah, now what is that?
Do you know what it is? Do you want to have a stab at it?
It's not contemporary, is it?
Well, it depends what you mean by contemporary.
Yeah.
What would you say contemporary means?
I would say that's the 80s sound.
Uh-huh.
The 80s sound, would you say?
Yeah, probably.
80s, and I would say that's a bit of Depeche Mode.
Not far away, actually.
Right.
Not bad for you. For you, that is not bad.
Go on.
It's actually Joy Division.
Joy Division.
Love
right,
will tear us apart.
Okay, Love will tear us apart.
Do you remember, Matt, you might have been at Old Trafford when they used to sing to that tune, Gigs Will Tear You Apart, which was...
Gigs will tear you apart.
No, that's not... Don't try and sing it. No, it does fit, actually.
Right,
but it's about Ryan Giggs, ripping through defences.
Okay.
But it's a very tragic story about Joy Division. But anyway, we shall get
Ryan
on with
Giggs,
that.
by the way, was a pundit on the...
I saw him. He's terrible, isn't he?
I thought he was very good.
Really?
But you know what I did think he was doing?
Yeah.
He was making so many technical observations.
Yeah.
He was clearly going through the interview for a manager's job.
Yes.
He was saying things like, well, if I was playing as a midfielder,
Yeah.
the minute I looked up and saw the centre half there, I'd put the ball over the centre half for the forwards to run to. He was doing all that sort of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You've upset one of our friends up in the northeast.
Why?
Laura, who came to our show in Whitley Bay.
Laura, yeah.
You remember Laura?
Lovely lady.
She says, oh my God, did Porky just say none of our listeners will have a Rolex? How rude. Hashtag man of the people.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
You obviously did mean it because you said it.
No. What I meant was, Laura, and thank you very much indeed for attending our show. You'll come to the next one. What I meant was,
well, she's not going to now, is she?
None of our listeners should feel bad about themselves for not having a Rolex. That's what I meant.
Really?
Not everybody can have a Rolex.
Yeah, no, not everybody wants one either. I wouldn't buy a Rolex.
Not everybody can have a Mercedes car.
It's a waste of money.
Did
you see what I put out? Tweet I put out, by the way, last night.
Yeah.
When England were playing so badly that it was literally like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
It was awful, right?
And, I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah, it was awful.
I'm very reluctant to...
tell me which car company sponsors England?
Eh?
What car company sponsors England?
Vauxhall.
Right.
Yes.
Which car company sponsors Germany?
Be Mercedes, I suppose.
Mercedes-Benz.
Yes.
Doesn't that tell you all you need to know?
Well, yeah, I suppose a little bit.
One's the world champion.
Yeah,
What is it?
Well, no, Vauxhalls are great. I've had some Vauxhall cars. They're good cars.
Okay.
I like Vauxhall
you
cars.
don't have to do that. Now, I'll tell you what we've done.
Yes.
In the break there, Marta, our producer, came in, and she's did a very good job here today, by the way. What do you think?
Excellent
She's getting
job.
very spoiled.
Excellent.
I don't think she should go away. I think she should stay till tomorrow.
I think it's a delight.
The other guy,
working with
Matt,
her.
he could just stay off,
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
Anyway, the power pose, right, is what we've put out, because you were telling me earlier that this power pose has been rendered as fashioned
nonsense
by George Osborne and Theresa May.
Yeah.
Now, we have reenacted the power pose.
We certainly have.
I have to say, I think we've done it rather well. Sadly, I've been taking the part of Theresa May.
Yes.
Which, because I'm comfortable with my sexuality, so I don't mind doing that.
Yes.
And you've done George Osborne.
That's right.
So I want people to have a look on Twitter and give us a little kind of thumbs up or a vote as to which one of us do you think looks more like the original.
I totally agree.
Because I put the original out as well.
Well done. And I just want to remind our listeners what this is all about. If you remember, in the run-up to the last election, when they're having the party conferences, all of a sudden, politicians were coming out onto the stage and they were acting as though they'd just walked out of a car crash. Literally, their bodies were bent, their legs were splayed, their face was jutting forward.
Was this not something they were told to do before? Was it not? But was it not something they were told to do to prepare for public speaking? If you know what I mean.
Image makers within the party. I don't know whether Labour did it, but certainly the Tories.
Oh yeah, they've all done it. Yeah,
Labour did.
Well, do you remember when they got Ed Miliband up and said, right, this is a guy who can't really read from an auto cue, because he looks awkward.
Yes.
So the best thing for him to do is to just speak. Without actually having any notes.
Absolutely.
Which he didn't do badly, except that he left out the whole section on the economy.
He did,
and he completely forgot to mention it.
Completely forgot to mention
it. And then
it.
pretended that it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake.
That's
and
right.
he just went, oh, well, Yeah. And it's like, well, hang on a second. This is meant to be the major plank of your policy,
People
you plank.
People know. But anyway, this came from...
Corbyn could do with a bit of a makeover, couldn't he?
I totally agree with you. Anyway, it came from a guy called Amy Cuddy, Harvard Business School, social psychologist. He was one of 3 scientists behind a paper that found that the open, expansive postures physically prepared by politicians make people appear more powerful, even boosting testosterone levels within their own body. And so they came out on the stage looking quite ridiculous,
Well, that's probably true. I mean, if somebody says to you, play the part of, I don't know, Julius Caesar, right? And even if you're not an actor, you go out and become the Emperor of Rome.
Yes.
And you probably do feel slightly better about yourself if you're a sort of a short, humpy, stumpy kind of a guy.
But anyway, what happened this week is one of the 3 that I mentioned the first one, Amy Cuddy, Harvard Business School, social psychologist. One of the other 3 was a lady called Dana Carney.
Dana what?
Dana Carney, C-A-R-N-E-Y.
Oh, well, like John Carney.
John Carney,
our
friend,
mate
in New York. The lawyer in New York is always...
Dana, isn't it Dana?
Dana, I think.
Dana Carney.
Always completely bladderated, wasn't he, old John?
He was, yeah. He did all right for himself, though.
He did all right, yeah. Anyway, is that he
or
a she?
Samsung on fire.
Dana or Dana?
I would say Dana in America is probably a he.
Yeah. Anyway,
because Dana, of course, was the woman from Ireland who won the Eurovision Song Contest. Don't sing it. Don't. I can see you preparing that.
Everything.
All kinds of everything.
Remind me of you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
did she not become a politician?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
She became a very senior politician.
Did she not become the president of Ireland at one point?
I think she did.
Or the Taoiseach.
No, the Taoiseach is the Prime Minister.
Taoiseach.
The President is the head of state.
Now, I know the who's who, but I was just asking you which one she became.
She became President.
Are you sure?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'll check that.
Anyway, Dana Carney, lead author on the original paper, said, actually, enough is enough here. This power pose has no validity at all. Reasonable people, whom I respect, may disagree, said Professor Carney from Berkeley. Oh, it's a she. It's a Dana Carney, right.
Is it?
However, since early 2015... she admits the evidence has been mounting that there's unlikely any embodied effect on non-verbal expansiveness, that's what it's called, right, i.e. power poses, had any effect on internal or psychological outcomes of people looking at you.
You see, I would disagree with that. I would very much disagree with that, because I think for some people it might work.
I think you look ridiculous.
Well, they do look ridiculous, and we certainly look even more ridiculous.
That's right, yeah.
It has to be said. However... I can see how it could be of some use. I mean, if you were, for example, of shy and retiring nature, which of course you're not, and never have been, and I'm not really very shy either, I suppose. But I used to be, though. I used to be. When I became, I would say, sort of brash and all that when I went to live in New York. Because you can't be shy living in New York.
No, you can't.
You just get shoved out of the way.
I agree, but you know what it reminded me of, mate? Honestly,
she was a member of the European Parliament, by the way.
Oh, she was.
She wasn't either Taoiseach or president.
Okay, but you know what it reminded me of? I've just remembered now, the George Osborne one. Do you remember the Monty Python sketch when the guy had the knotted hanky on his head and a little bit of that T-shirt and he clenched fists?
Yes.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm a...
No, that wasn't a lumberjack. No,
It
was something like... He was a sort of moronic character.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, brains or something used to shout. Yeah, it wasn't a lumberjack sketch, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, Osborne generally was a hideous character, wasn't he? I mean, he just looked like... I mean, I was shocked to say, I was telling Victoria Bourne earlier, that he doesn't he just look like one of those characters from Blackadder, who's one of the bad guys. Yeah. She confesses never having seen Blackadder.
However, Victoria, who is our newsreader, and an extremely good one, did actually say that she thought that this power pose thing and all that was actually meant to happen behind the scenes, and you were sort of, girding your loins and building yourself up to a big, a bit like, speech, but not actually doing it in front of other people to make yourself look stupid.
Well, do you think they got it wrong then?
I think they got it completely wrong.
They allowed themselves to have their pictures taken. Well, because of course, remember back in the Euros, just to go a bit of football for a minute, Joe Hart got all pumped up in the tunnel.
Yes, he did,
and he got so sort of machoed up, and filled with adrenaline.
That's right.
That by the time came for him to actually try to save a ball, he was too sort of stuck to do it.
They said last night, where he was man of the match, by the way, he got 9 out of 10 for some brilliant saves, one in particular from underneath the crossbar. They said he was very relaxed, and since he's gone to Napoli, he's become a more relaxed man.
Well, I bet you would become more relaxed if you went to Napoli. He hasn't got to Napoli, though, has he? He's gone to Torino.
Torino, that's right.
Which is a completely different part of the country.
Yeah, it is, it's not in Naples.
Hundreds of miles away. Well, it's in the north. It's in Turin.
That's right, yeah.
Here's one from Stenner. He says, only Porky could make Ryan Giggs sound like Harold Wilson.
Harold Wilson, that's right, yeah.
Danny says the state of those two doing these ridiculous poses, unbelievable.
Yeah, but I mean...
Mark says I can recommend a good laxative.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. It's supposed to look ridiculous. So listen, millions of listeners out there, please have a look at these poses. What we're doing is we are literally exposing the stupidity of politicians, and that's what we're here for.
John says it looks like you've had a seizure.
It does. It does look like you've had a seizure.
And Glenn says Porky's on his tiptoes. We all know he's only 5'3".
Excuse me. By the way, I've got a bit of football news for you.
Have you?
She's really going to amuse you.
Go on.
Guess who might be the next manager of Derby County again?
What, Steve McLaren?
Yes.
What?
He's apparently been invited back.
I can't believe I guessed it right.
Yes.
Because I thought you were doing... Actually, you know what I thought you were doing there? I thought you were about to do Steve Bruce.
No, that was Steve McLaren. And you guessed it instantly, didn't you?
I did.
Must have been a perfect...
This tells me I'm spending way too much time with you.
Exactly, perfect impression.
Let me tell you, I could see myself...
Well, hang on a second. I know this is probably... what's happened, by the way, to this great investigation that was all over the front page of the Daily Telegraph, and, the fact that the FA was suddenly on the back foot because all of this terrible corruption had inveigled its way through the football matches in this country, and through the management structures and through the agents and all that.
Seems to have gone on hold a bit, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, so as you were, isn't it?
It's gone on hold
apart from Sam Allardyce losing his job.
That's right,
there was a guy somewhere like Charlton that got kicked out, wasn't there?
He was a trainer, wasn't he? Wasn't even a manager.
He wasn't a manager.
He was a lower club in Charlton.
Somebody at Barnsley went somewhere.
Yeah, something like
that.
But
that's it, though.
Yeah, I think that's about it, yeah. And then the 8 Premier League managers... who were all taking bungs.
Who were named in some places, but obviously not here.
No,
we can't
still
do
haven't
that
been
here.
named. None of them have been named.
The names were going the rounds on social media.
Well, they might have been, but they haven't been named because there's no evidence.
No.
And Harry Redknapp, who was cited in a 4-page report, used his column in the Evening Standard, London's evening newspaper, to say it never happened.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the agents who was supposed to have supplied a lot of information for the report...
Can we try and hit the news on time?
Hang on, the Italian guy, remember, he said, no, I lied.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah, he said, no, I lied about it.
That would explain a lot,
I thought that's what they wanted to hear.
Yeah, OK. Right, coming up, we've got Porky Vision in the next hour. Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to The Two Mics. Coming up in this hour, Porky Vision is going to be here. It's the best TV review this side of the Milky Way, and astonishing in its own right as well, because generally speaking, Porky doesn't actually watch any of the TV.
Oh, no, come on, don't be misleading.
Well, that's the magic of it.
Don't be misleading.
That is the magic of it, and sometimes you do watch some of it, but you don't have a lot of time in your life, as you say. Now, if you look on Twitter, at The Two Mics, you will, of course, see the power pose that myself and Mr. Parry did just a few moments ago.
Yes.
He's pretending to be George Osborne, and I'm pretending to be Theresa May.
Yes.
I think I look all right as Theresa May.
I think, actually...
I haven't got the kitten heels, unfortunately.
I think we've done a very good replication of how idiotic politicians can be when they take advice from these image merchants. Have you ever needed an image merchant?
Well, I'll tell you a little story about that, actually, coming up. You are listening, of course, to The Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry. Yeah, funnily enough, there was a woman in America whose name escapes me who wrote a book called Colour Me Beautiful. you remember that book?
Yeah, I do.
It sort of swept the world.
Yeah, I do.
As one of the first image makers' books.
How to feel good about yourself and all that.
It was not only that, but it wasn't so much about poses. But there was a bit about that, but there was more about the colours that you should wear. And basically, you would go and see this woman for a consultation.
Yes.
And she would look at the tone of your skin, colour of your hair, colour of your eyes.
Really?
And she would tell you which colours would work best for you to wear, which is why I always look so good.
You clearly got lost somewhere along that particular
Well, I mean,
path.
I haven't followed it religiously since then, but it was very interesting. And I mean, that was in the days, of course, when we all wore ties.
I see.
Because I found a few old pictures last night. Funnily enough, when I dislodged an old photo album. I don't know if you noticed that I put a couple out on Twitter.
No, what were
one
they?
picture.
Oh, a very young person.
Yeah, well, I was 19 in that picture,
19,
right? And that was shortly before I went to New York.
Had your shirt open, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I'd just been in a water fight. Funnily enough, I mean that's why hence the picture. It wasn't anything more nefarious than that. But but you know, in those days you always wore a tie.
Yeah.
And in New York City, whenever you put a suit on, you wore a tie. I mean, now you hardly ever wear a tie.
Well,
I mean, I've got about 100 very expensive ties at home.
Yeah, I have as well.
And I don't know what to do with them.
I have.
Maybe I'll take them down to dry cleaners to see if they can lose them.
They'll lose them for you, that's true. You know, like colour things. So, for instance, my place on the coast, my penthouse down there.
It's not a penthouse.
When the first time that my sister came there, and she is a home economist.
Indeed.
So she knows about these things.
Yeah, stylist, you should call her. I don't think home economist does her justice.
She's more into baking and that sort of stuff than setting up homes, if you see what I mean. You know?
But she's more of a sort of, I mean, does she not do things which are then photographed?
Absolutely,
so it's more of a stylist.
Yeah, maybe stylist.
See, home economist sounds a bit low grade for her.
Oh, I think it sounds very high grade, actually.
That's because it's got the word economist in it.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But that doesn't work.
Anyway, the point of the story is she knows about these things. And so the first time she comes down, because I hadn't told them that I'd got this place. To be honest, initially, I was going to just buy...
Oh, what, did you just kind of say, come and meet me in a sort of secret location somewhere near Portsmouth?
I pretended I was taking them out for lunch.
Oh, right.
In Gosport, because initially...
Well, they would have been too pleased about that. They live in Bournemouth, which is a nice part of the world.
No.
You take them out for lunch in Gosport, which is a hellhole.
Well, they'd never been to Gosport.
Well, not surprised.
And Gosport's
I bet they've never been back either.
No, they have. Many times. Yeah, they stay there when I'm not there.
Gosport's horrible.
No, it's not.
It is horrible.
No, it's not. No, it's terrible.
I mean, your view, I have to say, is lovely.
Exactly.
The view is beautiful.
Exactly.
But I have to say, when you're down on the ground, you know, and you've got your old...
You've only ever seen it at night, anyway.
Yeah, well, it wasn't very impressive.
Yeah, well,
it wasn't exactly Manhattan skyline, was it?
No, but I mean, the only place you've seen in Gosport is the walk from my penthouse down to the ferry, and then we across the water to Portsmouth.
Yeah, well, I didn't come back,
did
I?
We had dinner. No, you didn't come back
because you refused to put me up in your apartment.
I paid for you to stay in a hotel.
Even though but you didn't know where the hotel was. We wandered about for about 2 hours looking for it.
Excuse me, just to indicate.
It's a shocking night.
Just to indicate about my taste, right?
Yeah.
So
we all know what that's like.
My sister comes in, and I said, "Look, you won't believe it, but I'm going to start living here because I bought it initially as an investment apartment to add to my
so you're going to rent
portfolio.
it out?
I'm going to rent it out, yeah. But then when I got in there, and I thought, this is fantastic, and the view's brilliant.
The view is very nice.
And all that kind of stuff. I then had it furnished properly. But I chose all the furniture, all the colours, all the curtains, all the blinds.
Did you get it all from one place?
I got it from a number of places.
Poundland.
No. A number of experts came. I called them up. I called up a chap from Nottingham to do the blinds.
Why?
Because he was good at doing blinds, and he came down.
Did he rob you blind?
Well, maybe. I don't know.
From Nottingham.
He could have done. I might have been bladderated, yeah. But
well,
anyway.
that's the other thing about you, right, is that as much as you are a man with an eye for good things and quality things, I'm sure that over time you've been ripped off from something rotten by people because they tell because you're the kind of person that thinks the more money you spend, the better it is.
Well, anyway.
Whereas I'm the sort of person that thinks, well, if I can get something good, but I can get it slightly cheaper, that would be great.
Anyway, to complete my story, so rudely interrupted.
Well, I'm sorry. If I didn't interrupt you, I'd never get a word in.
So my sister comes in, and she says, Mikey, this is
Mikey?
Yeah, that's just my sister.
She calls you Mikey?
Yeah, she calls me Mikey, yeah.
Oh, God.
She says, this is fantastic. And she went and looked in the bathrooms and saw that I had ceramics all over the walls, you know.
Ceramics?
Ceramics,
I didn't notice any ceramics.
Oh, yeah, there are ceramics,
What have you got?
They're views of the sea. Ceramic views of the sea.
Ceramic views of the sea?
Yes.
Well, how does that look?
Well, imagine a tile, and imagine somebody, sort of building on that tile, with...
like a three-dimensional
Yes,
thing.
that's right, yeah, absolutely. And they're all round my second bathroom. You probably used my first bathroom. That's the male bathroom.
Well, all I know is there was a locked room
bathroom
that I couldn't get into. Maybe that was the second bathroom.
No, there's no locked room, honestly. That joke is now getting a bit tired.
It's true, though.
She then looked at my bedroom to see a magnificent...
Hang on, now let's go back to these ceramic, expansions.
Yes.
Are they just like a single tile, then?
No, they're the size of, I would say, a telephone directory.
Really?
Enough. Yeah.
They must be very heavy.
They are quite heavy, but they're mounted on the walls.
What are they? Are they like hanging on a nail or what?
Yeah, they're hanging. Well, no, not a nail, a bracket. You know, there's a bracket behind them which you put them on. That sort of stuff.
Oh, okay. Do you not ever bang your head on them?
Well, why would I bang my head on them? They hang on the wall like a painting.
Well, they protrude out from the wall, though.
They protrude about 2 inches, the same as a painting.
Yeah, but I mean that means that your eye, generally speaking, is on the wall. If something's sticking out from the wall, you could hit yourself on it.
Well, do you ever hit yourself on a painting or a photograph you have on the wall of your children?
I never have done that.
No, exactly.
But certainly when we were in Mallorca, right? My daughter's fiance, who's much taller than me.
Yes.
He kept regularly scraping his shoulder on the. You know, when you walked out through the sort of the glass door to the swimming pool.
Yes.
There was a catch.
Oh, I see.
Which was way too high for me to hit.
Right.
But he kept catching his shoulder.
Really?
Line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Well, I realise that it's not about you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is interesting.
Anyway, and then she saw in my bedroom the fantastic paintings that I'd acquired and put around the walls. She went down my hallway and she saw I actually had a painting of HMS Victory commissioned. I had it done myself.
What?
So I didn't go into a...
Who's it painted by?
A local artist.
You don't know his name, do you?
I think his name was Frederick.
Frederick?
I think his name was Frederick. Yeah.
Frederick.
Yeah. And he painted it for me because I'd been to the local art galleries and not seen one that I really liked, you know. So I got one done myself. And then I bought, for quite a lot of money, a fantastic print of the French painting, Le Mort de Nelson. Sorry, what's your problem?
Does that loosely describe me the death of Nelson?
Exactly.
Who's that by, then?
Famous French painter.
Famous French painter.
Yeah,
I might have to
seriously.
look that one up.
You know, like Gauguin or somebody like that. You know what I mean?
Or something,
Gauguin or somebody like that.
Gauguin.
Yeah. And anyway, the point of my story is... And then
what is the point of the
She
story?
saw the fittings in the kitchen, which I'd had...
I don't remember seeing any of this stuff.
Yeah, hang on. And the bathrooms had been fitted out to Italian-style slate on the floor and all this kind of stuff, you know. So then... so my sister said to me, you know...
From B&Q?
No, you idiot, from Italy. And then my sister said to me, quite genuinely, she said, I can't believe it. She said, you must put me on to your interior decorator.
Really?
It's fabulous. And I said...
Can you imagine the pomposity of this conversation?
Hang on.
Super. You must put me in touch with your interior decorator.
And I said, no, Gilly, there isn't one. She said, what do you mean? I said, I did all this. No, she said, you couldn't. Yeah. I said, I did. I said, I had everything done myself. It's all me. You know, and I had...
that's your life. It's all about you.
I had a combination of colours, which were silver, black, white.
I'll just put Le Mort de Nelson into Wikipedia, and it comes out with Le Mort de Nelson Mandela.
No,
it's about Nelson Mandela's funeral, but it's in French.
No, it's the most famous...
I don't think there's a picture.
It's the most famous naval painting of all time.
No, it's not.
It is.
Absolute rubbish.
It is. The picture of Nelson on the deck, dying.
What about Turner?
With Hardy standing next to him, you know... Kiss me, Hardy.
Was it not Kismet Hardy?
Well, nobody will ever know, you see. Nobody was ever close enough to work out whether it was
we'll never
Kiss
find
Me
out because the Wi-Fi is so bad that nothing's actually coming up there.
Yeah. Anyway, that's...
Anyway, so what was the story about?
About the fact that how beautifully appointed
this whole
my
story
penthouse is.
It's about you bigging up what a brilliant interior designer you are.
Well, you know, all I'm trying to say is you come on here and you boast every day about being a master chef and all that kind of stuff.
I do not boast about it. I do not. Absolute rubbish.
About the fact that you've lost £400 worth of 7 shirts, which I'm finding very hard to believe.
All I say is that basically... you know, I quite like to cook, and other people seem to think that some of my cooking looks quite interesting, and they'd like me to share how I do it. So that's all.
Really?
It's nothing at all to do with boasting.
Well, I wouldn't eat anything you cooked.
The fact that, you wouldn't like
it.
You probably wouldn't like it because it's not got batter around it, and it's not fried.
Nothing wrong with that, mate.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not good if you eat it all the time.
I don't think so.
Anyway, we've got lots more coming up, including Porky Vision. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. We will also, of course, be doing Porky Vision very soon as well. We don't always get terribly serious on this show, Mike, but for the next 10 minutes we are going to get serious. I
think for a very valid reason.
Indeed. We're joined by a good friend of mine, former colleague, Deborah Colcutt. Very good afternoon to you, Deborah.
Hello.
Hi, Debbie.
Who's visiting us here from her various different roles as a journalism lecturer, part-time mother. That's probably sounds terrible, does it? Part-time mother.
Terrible, yeah.
Mother. Journalist.
Is that a woman who abandons her children for half the week?
No, she hasn't done that. No, she hasn't done that. No, that's me you're thinking
I haven't
of.
done that.
But it's a terribly sad story. We're going to talk about a terrible disease, which to be honest, I didn't know much about until you and I spoke some weeks ago. A lung condition called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis.
Yeah.
And the reason you're here is that it affected your mother. and only, 4 or 5 weeks ago,
Yes.
It killed her.
That's right.
It's a shocking story, really, because what you told me was that most doctors now don't really understand how this disease manifests itself. They're not really sure how it gets into people's lungs. Tell us a little bit about what happened to your mother.
She'd been ill for a couple of years, been coughing a lot, which I'd kept on nagging her to go and see the doctor about, just a persistent kind of dry cough. Then she'd had sort of similar symptoms to having flu or bronchitis. So she'd seen the doctors, they'd given her antibiotics. She'd felt momentarily, better. And then felt ill again. She'd had been investigated for heart problems, for, all sorts of different ailments, because they weren't very sure.
So they never really were able to pinpoint what it was?
No, so she thought it was a bronchitis kind of thing, or she'd had pneumonia. She'd had some work done in the house, so she thought, in her flat, so she thought perhaps it was to do with the dust in the flat, had exacerbated some kind of bronchial illness or something. And then she finally got a diagnosis in March of this pulmonary fibrosis, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, which we'd never heard of before. She'd never heard of before. And she died in August. So
just a few months later.
So just a few months later, yeah.
And what made it possible for them to diagnose it at that point? Had it sort of become much worse?
She had got a lot worse. She'd lost a lot of weight. She was coughing up a lot of mucus, and was also extremely breathless. That's obviously one of the key symptoms, is extreme breathlessness, to the extent that when I went to see her, having not seen her for probably only a couple of weeks, she was, shrunk to half the size and was completely immobile. Couldn't even get up to go to the loo. Was existing just sitting on the sofa.
How long was it from start of knowing your mum had a problem to her sadly dying?
About 5 months, less than 5 months, 4 months in the end.
Some people have diseases for years and complaints for years. And I mean, how shocked were you to find out the extent of your mother's illness after the first diagnosis? Because you must have thought, well, it's a bit of old age. The lungs start working less efficiently as you get older.
Exactly. And I think because she was doing a lot less, so I sort of noticed that she was doing a lot less. I mean, actually thinking back on it now, I realised that when I went to see her, she didn't get up. She didn't get up to go to the loo, which I didn't think about at the time.
How old was your mum?
She died a week after her 73rd birthday.
It's no age.
So she was 72 when she was diagnosed.
No age.
And the doctors think she'd probably had it for 3 years. So she was 69 probably when she started developing the early symptoms of it. But the problem, and that's part of the problem that the doctors have in diagnosing it, is that the early symptoms look very similar to cold or flu. It's very hard to differentiate, and you need a CAT scan to definitively diagnose it. A chest X-ray won't necessarily diagnose it. So a lot of patients go through, I think, what my mum did, being told to go, and I'm not criticising GPs necessarily, although I do think there needs to be greater education for GPs, because I think many of them don't recognise the symptoms, or don't perhaps consider that this could be a possible cause of the symptoms that they're seeing.
How many people get this complaint? Have you found out?
Well, there's currently 32,500 people in the UK with it, and nearly 6,000 people a year die of it. So that's more than leukemia, brain cancer, or stomach cancer.
That's the astonishing thing when I saw those statistics.
Really astonishing.
Not just because, we're all reasonably well informed. None of us had heard about it, really, until just, in your case, a few months ago.
Yeah.
And it's never really mentioned either.
No.
There's always lots of, fundraising campaigns. We have lots of campaigns here and advertised campaigns on talkSport and on talkRADIO and all the rest of it. But I've never seen one for this particular ailment.
No, and I think that is part of the problem. Obviously, cancer is a very, giving to cancer is a very worthy cause, and it's obviously a terrible disease. But I think that is the problem. If you compare the funding, Cancer Research UK spend £400 million a year on cancer research. IPF gets about 300,000.
Yeah.
So in terms of, at the moment there is no cure, there's no treatment, and the diagnosis, the prognosis is much shorter than any cancer. It's 3 to 5 years, and there is no cure. So that is, it's a death sentence of 3 to 5 years.
And the other problem, presumably, is because they don't really know how it starts or how it manifests itself. They really can't presumably look at anyone from any part of the population and say you are more susceptible to this or not.
No, there are some common threads. Geographically, it's more common in the northwest, in Northern Ireland and Scotland and Wales. It is linked to exposure to industry, so dust, smoke, asbestos, that kind of thing. But
did your mother smoke, by the way?
No, she didn't smoke. She didn't drive.
No.
So another thing they're very concerned about is diesel particles. That is having a huge impact on lung health generally, and they think that this could be the kind of heart attacks or the smoking of the future.
Do you know what? You'd be surprised, considering how modern the world is, for want of a better word, how little we still know about the human body.
That's true.
I mean, and particularly in the 20th, 21st century.
Yeah.
My dad died 35 years ago of a chronic heart complaint. He died before they'd had the first heart transplant in this country. Can you believe that? I mean, we thought heart transplants had been going on forever. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes.
But they knew so little about hearts that they hadn't given anybody a heart transplant. So what I'm saying is we're still finding out an awful lot of things about the human body which are puzzling doctors, even though we think we're right on top of things.
Sure.
That's right.
And, I mean, is it something that can be inherited or passed on? I mean, you must be slightly concerned about that, obviously.
Yeah, I'm more than slightly concerned about that because there is some indication that my grandmother just died of a lung-related disease. So I'm doing a bit of, detective work at the moment, trying to pull her death certificate and her post-mortem and find out what she died of. So yes, there is a genetic link. It's quite rare, but there is a link. So my brother and I obviously potentially develop it later in life as well.
Sure.
So, but at the moment, again, unlike a lot of the cancers, there's no marker, there's no genetic test you can do because there simply isn't the funds to pay for it at the moment.
Sure. So is there anything you're doing at the moment to try and, I mean, obviously you can raise awareness by doing stuff like this. I mean, are you kind of involved with the British Lung Foundation? They had a sort of a week of trying to raise awareness of it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, and they still have a leaflet that you can get from them, their website, blf.org.uk.
Okay.
They have lots of information on there. They have a free helpline as well that you can call, and they have lots of information about symptoms and that sort of thing.
Right.
Yes, I've been working very closely, trying to work with really closely with them, do as much as I can from my point of view. My brother has just got a place to run in the London Marathon next year, which is great. So he will be specifically raising money for IPF, obviously under the auspices of the British Lung Foundation, who've been great. Given him this place.
Does it affect young people? Is there any evidence it affects young people?
Yes, I mean, there was a case of a triathlete who was diagnosed with it at the age of 47. So he was fighting fit, running, swimming, obviously doing everything you do as a triathlete, and suddenly started noticing he couldn't run as far as he did before, and he was 47.
I mean, although 47 is younger than your mum, I meant really children and that sort of thing.
No, I think in children it's quite rare.
Right.
There does need to be, as I understand it, there does need to be a trigger, and often those are, unless you have it genetically, those are environmental factors, air pollutants we're talking about predominantly.
I mean, can it be a spore in the air?
Yeah, I mean, it could.
You said about the north of England and all that. Well, I mean, there's trees in the north of England which aren't in the south of England. Yeah. We were only talking the other day about the Tutankhamun curse. Could have been a spore that was inside the what was it? The tomb, the tomb and all that kind of stuff.
It could be. I mean, I think that's the problem. They just don't know. They just have so little information about it. And I think also the thing, I spoke to one of the doctors, Dr. Toby Marr, who works at the Royal Brompton Hospital, who's been one of the leading researchers into this. And he was saying that, I think we think because of the smog of the old days has disappeared, that our air, the air quality of our air is fantastic these days. And he said that we actually routinely neglect our lung health. It's one of those things we just don't really think about. We think now about cholesterol, we think about smoking, we think about all sorts of other things, other things that we think are going to give us cancer. But actually, we do neglect our lungs, and we don't realise how easily they become damaged. And that's the problem with this illness, is once the lungs begin to kind of harden and the scar tissue starts growing, there's nothing you can do to reverse it.
And if other people are having similar experiences to your family and the way that your mother, it took them 2 years to properly diagnose it. I mean, there might be people listening to this, Mike, who think, my mother seems to be a bit more short of breath. I mean, it's almost impossible to know how many people might have it, really, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, they're talking about, at the moment, it's among the 10 deadliest diseases in the country. Within a decade, it could be 5. It could be in the top 5, unless more funding is found to go into look into the research of it. So I certainly will be trying to raise awareness, try and raise some money, and in my mum's memory, and certainly, as I said, my brother is raising money as well in the London Marathon. So
well, let us know where people can go to find that kind of information.
Indeed.
You said,
British Lung Foundation is the best place to go.
Is the place to go. Well, Deborah, thank you so much for coming in.
Yes, thank you very much.
It's lovely to see you, under rather unfortunate circumstances. But Deborah Colcutt there, writer, author, lecturer, and Occasional mother.
All-round good person.
All-round good person, very much so. Thank you very much indeed. Now, we've got a lot more coming up before the end of this show. Right now, there's
Porky Vision.
We have got Porky Vision. All right, calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down. Put your hair on. That music can only signify one thing.
Indeed.
It is that time of the week when Mr. Parry casts his eye over the exciting and perhaps sometimes less exciting television shows of the past few days.
Yes.
I'll let you get on with it. What have you got for us, Mr. Parry?
Well, you've got to talk about The Fall.
Didn't we talk about The Fall?
I've got to talk about it again.
Talk about it again, OK.
It's the next episode.
Yes.
And, I mean, it is...
Is this episode 2 or 3?
It's episode 2.
2, yes. I think I might have seen it.
What?
I think because after you described that horrible scene of the doctors and the operation and all that kind of thing,
yes.
you were quite right. It was quite
very graphic,
gory,
indeed,
probably more than it needed to be.
But now, it's taken a very sinister turn.
Uh-huh.
And the sinister turn, which I've detected, but I don't think anybody else has got onto it yet.
I see, yeah. Well, because you know that area well, don't you?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Is that there seems to be one particular nurse looking after the guy who was shot up by the police because he tried to escape police custody.
What, you mean the killer?
Well, you see, I'm wondering whether he is a killer now. This is the whole point.
What?
I'm wondering whether he is a killer.
What, you mean the guy who's being linked with every single murder of all the women, the one that you've seen with women doing them harm?
Well, I'm not sure about this. Well,
we saw the scene, didn't we? Are you saying it's all going to be imagined?
What do you mean?
Did we not see the scene where he stabs the brother with the scissors?
No.
What?
No, that wasn't in it.
No?
No.
Okay.
When did you see that?
Well, I've been watching the old episodes of The Fall, and I watched the two new ones.
No, don't worry about the old episodes. No, this is the third series.
Yeah, I know that,
third series.
but it's the same story.
Now, he gets blown away trying to escape custody, and I think they shoot him through the windscreen of a car, don't they, as he's escaping? Is that right?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah. But he somehow manages to grab the gun from the police officer who's escorting him.
Oh, I know what this is. This is where they've taken him to the scene where they believe the body is, right?
Yes,
of the
that's
girl,
right. That's right.
Who's not necessarily dead.
That's right.
Right, and then it all goes horribly wrong.
Then he tries to escape.
The hard guy tries to kill him. He's the guy from the sort of UDA or whatever it is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He does.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
So he's the killer?
Well, no, I'm not sure that he is, you see.
Well, who else would it be?
I think there's a huge twist in the plot because,
Really?
you see, what happens is he's in the bed because he's had his spleen removed and 2 gunshot wounds and all that. And there's this very sinister nurse who keeps telling people they can't come in the room. And she keeps, bathing his head and his brow and talking to him and saying, Tommy... No, that's not his name, actually, is it? It's...
No.
His name is Foster.
Is it?
Is it Foster?
I can't remember.
I think it's...
Well, you're the TV reviewer.
Yeah, well, hang on. I think his name is... Oh, it's Porter.
Is it Paul somebody? He calls himself a different name, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
When they go back to the girl from the
right.
Queen's University, Belfast.
That's right, yeah.
He called himself Paul, I think.
Paul, that's right, yeah.
Anyway.
I think his name's Porter.
Porter.
As in, Porter, right?
Yeah.
So he's in bed. But this nurse, she's sinister. She's always dabbing his head and talking to him.
She's doing nurse-like things.
No. She's saying, Paul, open your eyes. She's trying to find out whether he's, compos mentis. Because I think she's part of his, terrorist gang. You see what I mean?
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't seem to be picking up on this very well.
I do. I mean, I'm the one that told you about the terrorist.
No.
The guy who is at the centre of trying to kill this guy.
Yes.
But the reason he's trying to kill him is because he was interfering with the terrorist guy's wife and tried to kill her at one point.
I'm not sure that's...
That's true.
I'm not sure that's correct.
It is correct.
Anyway, the point of the story is...
Yeah.
This nurse, in my view, is an essential part of the unfolding plot, in that I think she's either going to kill him in hospital or spring him from hospital. You see what I mean?
Oh, I see.
You see what I mean?
She's maybe in cahoots with him.
There's something
But he's
very...
in cahoots with the schoolgirl, isn't he?
Schoolgirl.
The schoolgirl. You remember the schoolgirl?
Yes, because she's taken the day off school, right?
And she's creeping about the hospital as well, isn't she?
She's creeping about the hospital. She's taken the day off school.
I don't think you got any of this right at all.
Hang on. Now, she's also a bit upset that one of her school friends might have also been on the pull with this guy.
Yes.
So she goes off and buys a jar of... No, like a squeezy.
It was a Jif lemon thing, wasn't it?
Jif lemon.
You know, like a fake lemon juice.
Yeah, it was. It's a big one, though. It wasn't like a little one.
No, it was a lemon size.
No, it wasn't.
It was.
No, it wasn't.
It's lemon size.
No,
they come as a lemon.
No, honestly.
What do you think? It's a giant melon-sized lemon squeezer.
It was the size of one you put on a table. What's your problem?
You don't put those on the... Why would you put that on the table?
I don't know, but it was.
Why would you put a giant lemon Jif squeezer on the table?
Look.
If you want any lemon juice, right?
Yeah.
Here's a clue. Cut a lemon, squeeze the juice out of it, and put lemon juice,
natural
lemon juice, not this rubbish.
Do you remember you used to stop on the A1 at a wimpy service station?
I never used to stop there.
You know, in the like the 70s and 80s.
I never stopped there.
Remember they had this big plastic tomato on the table?
You can still get those.
You can still get them, yeah. Well, and with a green stalk at the top where the
you didn't tell me you thought it was a real tomato.
No, don't be ridiculous. What I'm saying is, amazingly, because this is in Northern Ireland and things are different in Northern Ireland because I've been there a lot, she bought a giant lemon.
It wasn't a giant lemon. I watched the show. It's an ordinary one.
It wasn't. Honestly.
Right. Well, anyway, never mind.
You look again. So what happens is she takes this giant lemon, puts it in her bag, and then she runs over to her friend, who's another young lady outside a nightclub.
Yes.
And she says, you tried to tap up my boyfriend or something like that.
Something like that.
And that could be the terrorist guy, I suppose, could it?
No, she's talking about the killer.
Oh, the killer, that's what I mean. Yeah, but he's a terrorist, isn't he?
No, he's not a terrorist.
Okay, he's a serial killer of women, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a serial killer.
Yes,
he's a grief counsellor.
He was a grief counsellor, that's right, yeah. So she then pulls out the giant lemon.
Giant lemon.
Yeah, squeeze it. She squeezed it in the girl's face.
Yeah.
And of course,
the girl didn't see it coming because it was so small.
No, but the point is...
If you pull a giant lemon out the inside of your coat, somebody might notice.
No, because you only pull it out your bag and you've only got 2 seconds to react. Now, the point is, this is another part of the plot which we don't know about.
Well, you don't know about it.
Hang on, excuse me.
Everybody else does.
Nobody else does. I'm not giving any secrets away in case people have recorded it, okay?
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So, what we don't know is, we don't know whether the giant lemon can... Listen, hang on. Whether it contained just lemon juice.
Well, she bought it from a shop.
Yeah.
She went straight from the shop to the queue in the nightclub, right? So the inference would not be that she took it home, emptied the giant lemon of its lemon juice.
And put disinfectant in it.
Why would disinfectant be better than lemon juice?
To try and blind her opponent girl.
Well, that's what she did, but lemon juice would do that.
Lemon juice doesn't blind you.
Well, it does if you fire it straight into your eye socket.
No, don't be ridiculous.
It's very painful. You ever done that?
Well,
Have you ever had lemon juice in your eye?
Well, of course I've never had lemon juice in my eye. What would I put lemon juice in my eye for, you idiot?
Well, you don't put it in there, but sometimes when you're squeezing a lemon...
Funny enough, it did happen once when I was making pancakes.
Well, in New York, when you get... And some English restaurants now do it over here.
That's right, yeah.
They put it inside a sort of muslin cloth.
Yes, that's right.
And they give you a little silver affair to squeeze it.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody does that.
That's right.
I've been in restaurants before where you squeeze the lemon, and if you don't get it right, a bit shoots into your eye.
Yes, but I mean, that's painful, but it doesn't rob you of your sight.
Well, it would if you did it for long enough.
No, but this is a quick
square. If you had a giant lemon... Fake giant lemon.
Yeah.
Squeeze the load of that in.
No, what I'm saying is, it was a psychological thing. The girl who had the stuff squeezed in her face was supposed to think it was acid or disinfectant or something like that.
But you couldn't put acid into a fake lemon because it would corrode the inside of it.
Yeah, but you could put disinfectant in, couldn't you? Which would be very horrible, you know what I mean? So I
think we spent enough time on the lemon now.
Yeah, I think she might have gone home and done... Anyway, point of the story is, while all this is going on... the world's most glamorous policewoman, played by...
Yes.
Go
on. The woman from the X-Files.
Gillian Anderson. Who looks just far too beautiful and glamorous to be a policewoman. It's ridiculous.
I think that's a very sexist thing to say.
It's not sexist. She wears 6-inch high heels.
Well, so?
She wears pencil skirt. She's got a shock of beautiful blonde hair. She looks so glamorous, it's unbelievable. She couldn't possibly be a policewoman. No policewoman in the world looks like that.
Well, I don't know if that's true.
No, and she's a detective superintendent, by the way, which is a massively senior rank, and yet she's only sort of, portrayed as a woman in her sort of early 40s or something.
Early 40s is old enough to be successful as a policewoman.
It's not. I know lots of police people. You don't become a detective super until you're in your 50s.
That's rubbish.
No, it's not.
Half of them have resigned by the time they're 50 because they get their pensions paid off early.
Pension at 56, I think, don't they, if they've done 20 years or something like that. That's not a bad job, is it? No, if you do 30 years, so you can start as a cop at 19.
They used to be able to retire after 25.
25 years. Yeah. So you can start as a cop at 19, get a full pension at 44 years of age, and then get a job as a security consultant.
Yeah, or any number of things.
Double bubble. It's no wonder the country's going bankrupt, playing up pensions like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, while all this is going on,
yes.
Gillian Anderson is Oh, and by the way, since when did police officers get picked up outside their 5-star hotel where they're being put up while they're investigating a crime in Northern Ireland?
I mean, you've seen pictures of those guys who would go off.
It's called the Merchant, that hotel, by the way.
What, the Merchant?
Yeah.
In Belfast?
Yes.
I think I know that.
Yeah, 6-star hotel it is.
6?
Yeah, 6-star hotel, and she's staying there in a suite. So, and the Metropolitan Police...
Yeah, but I mean, you've seen, haven't you, when you get these investigations teams going over to, say, the Caribbean.
That's
They
right.
always appear on the front page of a Sunday
That's
newspaper.
Right, yeah.
You know, lording it up
That's
by
right,
the
frolicking
pool.
and all that,
by
yeah.
the pool.
But anyway, so she come out, and she's getting picked up by another police officer.
Seen the time, by the way.
Don't worry about the time.
You got any other shows to talk about?
Hang on. Another police officer in the back of a chauffeur-driven Jag, very similar to the one I used to drive.
He's the guy with the beard, isn't he?
He's the guy with the beard.
Yeah, but isn't he like the head of the PSNI as an organisation?
No, he's assistant...
like chief constable or something.
ACC, assistant chief constable.
Of course, he's driven around in a sort of very very limo-like car because he's
I
probably...
object to that as a taxpayer.
Well, no, but he probably needs protection as well. You know.
Well, it's because they do make reference to. Thank God we've moved on from the Troubles, you know, because the Troubles was kind of late 70s, early 80s.
Like that?
Oh, the lady in the hospital.
So like Brendan Rodgers you're doing again.
The Troubles anymore. Well, Brendan Rodgers comes from Northern Ireland, so anyway.
Russell says there's only one giant lemon around here, and he's called Porky Parry.
Oh, it's very nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
Can you hurry up, please?
Anyway, so what happens is, Gillian Reynolds has been told that...
Who? Oh, Gillian Reynolds.
Gillian Reynolds, yeah, has been told...
Gillian Reynolds? She writes about radio for the Daily Telegraph.
Hang on, who am I talking about?
You're talking about Gillian Anderson.
Gillian Anderson is told that... Now, just hang on. You're
Gillian Reynolds, in fact, I used to commission her to write about radio for the Mail on Sunday.
You're wrecking my concentration.
What a complete plank you are.
So she's told that we're moving your investigation to another building. I don't know why. But then...
No, I don't know why either.
She just gets on with it and, you know, you have to wait and see what the next series is all about, really.
Yeah.
Next episode.
Maybe you should have a look at the last series and give yourself an idea.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, look, I don't want to say too much because I keep getting attacked by our millions of listeners for telling them too much because they haven't seen it yet.
Neil says this, Porky must have been totally bladderated when he watched The Fall. The bloke clearly hasn't seen series 1 and 2.
I'm well aware of the history of this
programme. And Rodney
programme.
says, I think Porky Vision should be named Porky Pie Vision because I don't think he watches any of the programmes that he's on about.
What are you on about? I mean, honestly, you know,
we'll look forward to the next instalment of The Fall.
I don't get any appreciation for the amount of work I put in outside of this show, you know.
Have you watched anything else, or is that it? Any other recommendations?
Yes,
You've only got a few seconds here.
I'm trying to think now what else I've seen. I've been very busy, I have to say.
Really?
Really busy.
So nothing particular you want to mention?
DCI Banks.
You said that last week.
No, well, I'm about to watch the new episode to see if it's as bad as the last one.
Oh, good.
Okay, I don't recommend it.
Brilliant. Yeah. That was, of course, Porky Vision. We'll do another one in a week's time.
Indeed.
Wherever we happen to be doing a radio show. We are the Two Mites. There will be a podcast coming out. Of course, the Porky Quiz is going to be tomorrow, and it's going to be on famous quotes. So
it's not actually. I'm sorry. Do you mind?
What?
I've decided on a change of subject.
Well, hang on. We've already decided it's going to be on famous quotes.
But you haven't notified.
Well, I haven't had a chance to instruct the independent quizmasters.
Exactly.
So what are you saying? You want to change it now?
Yes.
What do you want to change it to? I wouldn't make it The Fall if I were you.
No. It's the anniversary this week of Christopher Columbus sighting America.
Right. So what do you want to quiz on?
Christopher Columbus.
What about Amerigo Vespucci?
No. Christopher Columbus.
Christopher Columbus.
Yes,
okay.
Please. Yes.
I'm sure we've done a quiz on Christopher Columbus.
Haven't.
I think we have.
No, we haven't. Honestly,
I'm sure we have.
I can tell you, you haven't.
All right, we'll do that then.
Yeah.
Okay. Steve says this. I've listened to a lot of Porky Visions, but today's is an all-time low.
What? No. You mean an all-time high?
No, he doesn't mean that.
No, he does.
Rodney says things are different in Northern Ireland. What do you mean, Porky? We're not still in the 80s. We have moved on a bit.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, there are still things in Northern Ireland which are unique to Northern Ireland because of its culture and heritage.
I see.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, like champ.
Eh?
Champ.
What's champ?
You know what champ is? I thought you lived in Northern Ireland.
I did.
Champ is what they eat. It's something that they eat. It's the national dish of Northern Ireland.
I've never had champ.
You've never had champ? It's like potato and cabbage fried together.
No, never had that, mate. No, seriously.
It's a Belfast speciality.
I lived in the Europa Hotel, and they didn't serve champ there.
Well, they wouldn't have done, no.
Exactly.
Because they would have been ripping you off and serving fry-ups for about $10.95 a day.
Well, that's all right. I wasn't paying.
Rodney says this. The shock of blonde hair, high heels, very glamorous, good job. Policewomen don't look like that, or Porky would be arrested every week.
Well, what does that supposed to mean?
Well,
all I'm saying is, look, I'm telling you, and millions of our listeners will. Yeah, I'm telling you. Millions of our listeners will agree with me that, generally speaking, police women are much more conservatively dressed because of the job they have. They might have to sort of nab a villain. They might have to sprint along a road. You don't do that in 6-inch high heels.
Well, she's got other people that do that for her.
Well, you say that, but I mean, I'm telling you, policewomen are very practical, very hard-working.
Okay. You want sensible shoes, is that what you're talking about?
Hey? Yeah, I would think so. I would think so, yeah.
Laura says this, I watched The Fall and I've no idea what Porky's on about.
Really? Yeah,
Lord Rallo says, worst Porky vision in weeks. It seems like he's back to form.
Well, that's very nice, isn't it? I spend my time watching television programmes, trying to interpret them to you. You see, I'm getting a bit fed up with this because what I'm getting back, the feedback I'm getting is, why didn't you tell us what what we obviously saw on the screen?
Yeah.
I go behind what you obviously see on the screen and try and tell you what the deeper plot is. Have any of you out there, come on, send in your tweets and your texts, have any of you out there suspected yet that nurse is a very evil woman who is either going to kill him or spring him from the hospital? Come on. Have any of you worked that out yet? I worked it out here first. You heard that first here.
No. Now, here is another attempt by me to prove your knowledge of things. But, I mean, I don't mind if you ask me some of these questions. But you've seen these questions have been released by Oxford University.
For the entrance exam?
Well, you claim that you went to Brasenose College for an open day or some kind of interview, right?
Excuse me, a 3-week introductory visit.
You told me it was
3 days.
3 weeks
3 days,
introductory
not 3
visit.
weeks. 3 days.
3 days.
Visit. Yeah, I was there 3 days.
So you must have been given some interview questions then.
Well, I met all the professors because I was going to do politics, philosophy and economics, which is what David Cameron did.
Until they realised you were too thick.
The formerly failed Prime Minister, yeah.
Yeah. So are you saying that you didn't get asked any questions?
Oh, yeah, I did, yeah.
Well, what sort of questions did you ask? Did you get asked?
Well, I got asked questions that...
Because, I mean, you're not the best will in the world.
Yes.
You're many things, but you're not a philosopher. You're incapable of philosophical thought.
I don't agree with you.
You are.
Anyway...
We had this conversation a couple of days ago,
Hang on.
and you got all worked up with me and said we were going round in circles and we weren't achieving anything. Which is what philosophy is.
Do you have any of these questions?
I do.
Well, why don't you ask me one?
All right, here's the first one. What makes a novel or play political? This would be if you were studying modern languages. Helen Swift, Associate Professor of Medieval French at St Hilda's College, Oxford, always asks this of her modern languages candidates.
So what makes a novel or play political?
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, St Hilda's College was the one Mrs Thatcher went to.
That's not what I'm asking you.
Okay, what
makes a novel or a play political?
The relationship between the characters in the play or the novel makes everything political.
Incorrect.
No, it's not.
That's incorrect.
It's not incorrect.
Yeah, it is.
I'm telling you what I think is the answer, not what anybody else does.
You're getting it wrong.
So what is the official answer?
The official answer is we want the candidate to start thinking about what one means in applying the label. So you've already decided to take the label and use it, you see, whereas what you should have done is said, well, hang on, how is that label actually going to be useful to me in analysing whether or not something is political?
About?
It's called philosophy. The idea that you were going to do it strikes absolute and utter horror into me.
If you read the best novel I've ever read was The Pillars of the Earth. What's your problem? What's wrong with you?
By Ken Follett?
Yes.
That's the best novel you've ever read?
Historical novel. It was
there's
brilliant.
not much philosophy in there, is there?
It was brilliant.
Really?
Right? Now, what I'm saying is...
What happens at the end?
Well, that's not important. He writes a follow-up.
Does he?
The follow-up...
What's that called?
I've forgotten.
Pillars of the Earth 2?
No, but I've just started reading it. I started reading it about 2 years ago.
Well, I've had to write this book because my wife Barbara's costing me a fortune.
Well, something like that, yeah. And
you've got this completely wrong.
No, what I'm saying is...
try another one on you.
We've
only got any time left.
The second one is based in a monastery.
Is it?
And it's full of political,
Political
political infighting because they all want to be the abbot. So that's political, isn't it?
No.
It is.
No, it isn't.
Of course it is.
Of course it isn't. About 1 in 4 deaths in the UK is due to some form of cancer, yet in the Philippines the figure is only around 1 in 10.
Yeah.
What factors might underlie this difference? Now, this is a question that medical students are asked.
Well, because obviously United Kingdom is a more developed society, with no disrespect to the Philippine people.
You'd get thrown out straight away for saying that.
No, you wouldn't. Because what I'm saying is...
You have no idea what the intensity of the PC world is in academia.
Well, I'm telling you this. We eat more processed food.
If you start telling them that the Philippines are behind the West...
I didn't say that.
I
said we're a more developed society. And because the Philippines live in a country where they've got loads of space and forests, they eat a lot more natural foods than we do. Because we eat processed foods in this country.
What, do you think they all live in a forest?
No, I said there's lots of forests in the Philippines. Philippines is a massive country, do you know that? Mm-hmm. It's one of the biggest islands in the world.
They've just banned smoking. You know, they've got that crazy president there.
Have they?
Yeah.
Bit of a crackpot, is he?
Well, he's been described as that.
Has he? Yeah. And so, because, I mean, for instance...
So I suppose he's got sort of death squads going around killing off drug dealers. Some people think it's a good idea.
Hang on, I think he's just sentenced 3,500 drug dealers to death.
That's right.
Literally overnight.
And guess what?
Yeah.
Now he's going after the smokers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but apparently,
I'll not be going to the Philippines.
Apparently, he's not got enough firing squads to get rid of all these guys. Right. So that's a career plan. That's a career plan in the Philippines.
The second question
to join a firing squad because there's a lot of drug dealers needing to be blown away.
Question number 3. What exactly do you think is involved in? This is a great one for you. In blaming someone.
Well, blaming someone is really a deflection of your own responsibility for a certain situation.
Really?
Yes.
No, you don't mean that, do you?
Of course I do.
You just blame me for everything that goes wrong.
No.
Well, that's what you do.
So what
are you telling me now that that's just a reflection of your own guilt about messing it up?
No, I'm saying that a philosopher would tell you that. What I would say is that you have to take blame on your shoulders, stand up and be counted.
Really?
It's the only way a civilised society can work. That's why politicians are all scumbags, because they're always trying to blame somebody else.
Well, I'll look forward to the day that something bad happens and you don't blame anybody but yourself. Because that day has never happened.
Answer?
Well, the official answer, again, is much more philosophical than that. It's because it's a PPE question. It's not about who's to blame or who is blaming somebody else.
What mumbo-jumbo is it?
Well, it's all about the fact that blame is just thinking that someone has done something wrong. Real blame requires feelings of some kind on the part of the blamer, anger or resentment, for example.
Load of mumbo